Everybody is in attendance that's on the committee. Once again, we'll start off by thanking everybody to give up their precious Friday night and all the time this week that we've done. It's our third meeting of the week. It went quite late the other night. We need a scribe for the meeting.
Oh, that's right. I said I was probably going to scribe. All right.
Yeah. Let me get my
Do you want me to do it while you eat? I mean, the new notes are so easy to take that it's
right. And I can always watch it. So no, I'm good.
Okay.
Okay. So approval of past minutes. Looks like we got 224 and 217. I think, was there another one that was just put on recently? Did everybody get a chance to look at that one?
I haven't looked at that one.
I haven't looked at the
Thanks,
new
Sean.
one.
It's pretty short.
We had 224 and 217.
224, 217, yeah. So I'd like to take a vote to approve at least those two. With a show of hands, thumbs up, you want to approve?
Well, we need the second thing. So like
Second.
okay.
Second by Lisa.
Yeah.
Thumbs up by everybody? Anybody?
Oh, no,
224 and 217.
Put down your fork for a minute. Okay. So those two are unanimously approved. We just have one more that it's very short, and hopefully by the end of the meeting, we can maybe take another look at that and get that one approved as well.
Sounds good.
Before we open up to public comment, I just wanted to just take a quick minute for each of you to kind of do a recap as to where we are and what everybody's thinking, you know, the direction go. We did a lot of changes last meeting. We've had some time to think about a few things, and I just wanted to go around the table and have everybody, you know, just for, you know, a short period of time, a minute or half a minute, to see where they go, what we think, now that we know some of this, the dust has kind of settled a little bit. So I'm going to start right around with Lisa, and then just go right around the screen.
So I actually just watched the BOS meeting and listened to their feedback. And I'm still really concerned about the leaf blower piece. And I really sat down and I have something to add to the, you know, for consideration. We were going to do 10 minutes tonight. And I really think that we still need to put something together, because it is the number one noise that there are complaints about. We're not taking leaf blowers away during the high season of leaf blowing. I think we can find some balance here with this. And I really encourage you all to really think about it and how we can tackle that. I think as we go through this tonight, the other thing that we should look at is if there are things in here that aren't part of our top 5 and we can get rid of stuff, I think we should do that, so it's not as confusing for people to take a look at it, so that we can get something put in place.
Okay. All right, thanks. And that was, I'm glad you had the chance to look at the selectmen's meeting, because it did give us a little bit of direction. Tim, how about you? What do you have 30 seconds to share what you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a little concerned about any major changes right now. You know, I thought last meeting we were gonna just zip through it with a couple minor updates from the forum. I'm a little concerned that we took out the homeowner noise section, because I still think it's a whole about it's not actually protecting a castle. I think it's making it worse. And again, we had, you know, showed forums with a homeowner section specifically called out. So I have concerns that we're gonna we kind of almost need another forum if we don't, since we changed pieces to it.
Right.
And the rest of it, you know, like I think we already did things. I think we just need to clean up the language a bit and just keep moving forward.
Okay, Cindy, how about you?
I'm actually very concerned. I'm really, really frustrated with our process at this point. I think we are starting our 5th month of this effort to produce a 4-page document. And we've done a lot of really good things. But it's like, as far as our document goes, we vote on something, we take stuff in, take stuff out, we put stuff in, we send it on to people like selectmen, public forum, and then we go back and change it and revisit it again and again. You know, we took a vote on the leaf blowers the other day. Whatever the reason that people voted to take it out, mostly based on the selectmen feedback, I think that if we were to leave it in at this point, it's sort of like, well, what'd you bother asking for? And we're clear that they're probably going to take it out anyway. I really would like to use our time more productively and stop trying to add to the document at this point and just get through it so we have something to present to advisory on Tuesday.
Okay, John?
So I want to, I think the committee has done some relatively good work for the last 5 months. This is it's a very careful balancing act that we might not get accurate. So I've been thinking of the homework for tonight. I went back, what are we really trying to do that the town does not have today? And Chief Paulus was very clear. We need something that for enforcement, so that when the police shows up on the call, there's some level of enforcement. And for me, getting into the details of the leaf blowers as an example and so forth, I don't think we need it. All I really need is some basic quantitative hours. Like Tim, you know, I'm a minimalist, so I was fine taking out the homeowner section, but you know, if it was in, it wouldn't bother me. But for me, I think we're almost there. We need to basically finish this thing because it's all about helping to enforce something that a citizen can call and the police would have some document to enforce it. And you know, Peter, what do you call it? Keeping the peace and so forth. If this document helps reinforce that, then I'm fine. Then I think we've done our jobs. And truthfully, I don't think this really addresses the survey because of the leaf blowers. It was highly rated there, but you know, if we get rid of the leaf blowers, what happens with the weed whackers? You know, during the summer, they're trimming the edge, and those are all left. Then you take out the leaf blowers to blow the grass clippings back on. So I don't want to create too much restriction. So for me, the goal is enforcement. And if you think of the goal as enforcement, we are well meeting that goal with anything else we do tonight.
Okay, thank you. Lee?
Yeah, you know, I think I agree with, you know, the comments that John and Tim have made, and I feel Cindy's frustration as well. We really need something that we can get past. That's really, if we don't want to feel like we've wasted all this time, we need something that is going to pass. I'm disappointed that the select board wanted us to take out, the things that they did. But if they're not going to put it forward, you know, with it, then, you know, it doesn't matter what we do. You might as well not poke their eye. And, you know, I feel the frustrations of people who have to live with constant noise as opposed to episodic noise. So I understand, you know, the concern about, you know, the industrial noise and doing something about that. And that's the reason why I had no objection if we wanted to try to have a tighter standard than the state, but also recognizing the reality, you know, if it's not going to make a difference in the long run toward being enforceable, then it really wouldn't matter that whether we put in 6 dB or 10 dB. But, you know, if, you know, if there was, a likelihood that putting in a more restrictive standard would help, the Department of Health to be able to, enforce this and force a company to do another survey. But I also then understand totally the problem of, well, what do you do with somebody who is already there, has met the standard, assuming they do meet the current 10 dB standard, and now you change it to 6? How do do they get grandfathered in which case, for the most part, it hasn't helped the people who are currently having their ox scored. So, I mean, those are my concerns. And I think, that's sort of what we expressed last time. And I'd rather not keep going around and around.
Okay. All right, well, and my thing is I'm kind of torn because, we kind of looked at this problem in great depth and came up with some solutions with, I thought, a lot of compromise, and came up with a pretty good document. And now we're being looked at from the political side as to what's going to pass and what, because we know the rest of the town is not going to look at this the way we have. So now it's like, I'm torn, like, we really need this in, but then this might not fly. Like, so, I mean, and I'm also torn about what I call remedy. When somebody has a problem, what's the remedy? I wanted this document to be geared towards people that have a problem and there is no remedy. Like, they can't go to this board or they can't go to that board, or there's nothing that can help them. This is the guideline we go by. So that's why I was somewhat against like the industrial thing, because I thought the remedy could be through the Board of Health or some of the other things could be. So I mean, I'm very frustrated too. Some of my thoughts were actually like, I wonder if we should just postpone this till the next town meeting. I mean, I don't know, but I know we're all trying. I know we're all trying, and everybody's been making some great compromises, and I'm sure nobody's, there are no win. It seems like nobody's winning here. Like, it's just, and now we've changed. I'm concerned because we've changed the document so much from what we submitted to the selectmen that now it's almost like everybody's going to go like, what are you guys doing? I could see a couple little things if they said, okay, they only had one, take out the late blower thing. They only had one suggestion. And now we've gone almost sideways to add this, add that. Like, we took out the homeowner thing. Now we're going to add the 6 dB, which I flipped on. I think that's fine. I thought about it a little bit more. So, I don't know. I just wanted to get everybody's feeling and, get a little bit of direction because, we're all in this together. So, why don't we just bring up the document, I guess, and we can talk just briefly through each section and see, now that we all know what everybody kind of thinks.
Do we need
Go
to do
ahead, Cindy.
public comment?
Yep. Oh, yep. Well, I'm going to open up to public comment at this time. Thank you very much for that.
Got a few.
7:16 public comment.
Do we have any public comment?
And Heather, thank you for being in attendance as a resource. Tim, do we have, how many customers do we have out there?
We have Andrew Pfaff, Debbie Demuria, and Sam Stivers in the audience.
Okay.
Do we have any public comment before we get started on the document?
Now, Mr. Pfaff's on advisory, right?
He's on advisory.
Okay.
Yes.
So while that thought is fresh in my mind, I did get correspondence back from Kathy Cook. We have a meeting next Wednesday. They have a meeting Wednesday. Our meeting's at 7. They're prepared to put us on their meeting for 8:15. So depending on what happens tonight, bare minimum, I think we'll be there for 8:15, but we may have to meet earlier, or I may just change it to 8:15, depending on what happens tonight. So
the other thing is we could just, recess to join the other meeting and then come back.
Right, yeah, well, depends on, yeah, where we stand. But I do want to hear from Mr. Pfaff, because, you know, he might have some insight on what that committee might want or not want as well, so.
Debbie had her hand up to speak during public comment.
Okay, go ahead, Debbie.
Hi, everybody. Debbie Demuria, 58 Flag Road. Well, I have to just echo everybody's, kind words about all the work that this committee has done. I think you've come a really long way. I just want to say, I don't think that this is for enforcement only. I think really that this is about shaping behavior. So in one way, neighbors know how to, act and be respectful towards each other, but also people who come into town and do work know that there's a set of, guidelines or principles that we all agree to. So, I've been thinking about how to make this draft bylaw more simple. One thing I've noticed is that, I was a little bit struck, I say, by listening to the select board. A couple of the members talked about feeling like they're making maybe too much noise in their own yard. The children are playing or they're having a drink on their deck. And, I don't think that that's what this is all about. I don't think the police are going to come, and talk to the children. But what I think this is all about is really our position on these loud noises in town and these like long chronic noises, or, a couple people have mentioned living across from the ball fields with 7 hours of lawn mowing. And those are very loud machines. Or I've mentioned industrial noise. I'm afraid that we're looking to put a bylaw together that's going to regulate people who are just, doing their own thing in their yard and not spend so much attention on the most egregious noise, which are these riding mowers, these riding leaf blowers. We don't have to measure the decibels to know how much noise they put out, because we can find that in reference. So I just wanted to kind of, leave you with that, because I still think that some of that has to be addressed. And I think Mr. Stivers had mentioned by maybe limiting the hours, say one of these large machines, limit to 20 minutes or something. I think he might have said at the last meeting. And I think that's a different idea. It's a different approach, especially for the person who lives, across the ball field and is listening to 7 hours. And, it's unclear whether that person should, to me, it's unclear if that person should call the police or should call the Board of Health. I don't know how that gets regulated, but that's not healthy. So I would, I encourage, I guess, the committee to keep thinking along those lines, and maybe for these big machines that are making a lot of noise, where we don't need to use a meter, we know how loud they are, that maybe we limit them to something like 20 or 30 minutes. I kind of like that idea. I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Andrew has his hand up, so I'm going to bring him over.
Hey everyone, good night. So Peter, I'm not sure what questions you had about advisory. I mean, I had some comments about, the latest draft of the bylaw, but I think I'd rather save those for when you get to certain sections. But if you have anything specific to advisory, I'm happy to answer.
No, I was just trying to get an overall view of, we did a lot of changes at the last meeting. Obviously, we want to get something that's going to fly. And if we could get a little insight, I mean, the selectmen gave us insight. I mean, I don't expect you to, give us the obviously answer for the whole committee, but certainly your input. How many people are on advisory, by the way?
7 members.
7, okay.
Yep.
So, yeah, just some insight. I mean, would it be upsetting that there's this much change to the document?
Speaking personally, as
yeah, of course,
I'm a little. I was a little taken aback at the amount of changes after a public forum that weren't discussed in the public forum, right? It would be one thing if there was a lot of comments from the public and those changes were reflected in your document, right? But it's almost to the point where you almost need a second public forum to review what changes you made. because it's a
Right.
much different document, right? It was substantially changed.
Yeah.
So that was one of my concerns, that we might want to have another public session after that. But then again, maybe the meetings with advisory and or selectmen, will serve as those second ones, but it seems like there's going to need to be another round of public weighing in. That's
Yeah.
just my opinion.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. I mean, my thought would be to go back to where we were and remove the section that the selectmen, told us to, and just do a couple, grammatical things. If we want to add in that 6 dB, I think that could be done without too much, it's just a minor tweak to it. We're going from 10 to 6. And then I think, that would probably get the blessing on the slide. I don't think anybody's going to be overly, we'll probably even notice that in the document unless we bring it out. And I think
In
it would probably
regards to
fly.
that, right,
Yep.
in regards to that, right, that was the industrial. I mentioned it to my chair. She said, we have a scheduled meeting Tuesday, so we put it on the agenda just to pose to our 3-person board, if that would be helpful, to get it in this document. And this was kind of the right avenue to get it into the document versus doing kind of a separate, like you talked about doing a separate document. And then to Lee's point, I don't think there's anyone grandfathered. I can ask the board. We have a member who's been on for more than 15 years, but I don't think really sound studies. I think this has just been the one done, but I can find out. But I don't think I think it would be help in the future, but I don't believe, but I will ask our board on Tuesday just
Okay.
to
Okay.
agree with that.
Thank you for that. And
Okay.
That's great
I mean,
collaboration.
if they were willing to tackle it, then we wouldn't have to.
Right.
So that would be good,
right.
but
Right, but do you want to just leave it? I mean, you could put it in, that's fine. I
Yeah,
don't think there'd be
I
any
think that's
objection.
great collaboration.
Or
Yeah,
you could
yeah.
leave it in and just say, awaiting Board of Health, and we'll get back to you.
okay. All right. That's fair
Either
enough.
way, you can add it. I don't think that would be a problem. Or,
It sounds like it's only going to be a one sentence
yes, it's a
thing,
one sentence, yep.
once we figure out what that's going to be and the time, whether it's times or 10 to 6 or whatever we agree with. But Andrew, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. So one suggestion I might make is, since this is a bylaw, and I believe, Heather, that the Board of Health thing is a policy that the state allows the Board of Health to vote on, right? So if you changed it in your Board of Health meeting, you would need to go to town meeting to ratify it, which is, I think, against what is in, the state code that allows you to change it whenever you want. But if it's written in the bylaw here, so I would suggest you refer to it in this document, and it's a separate living, breathing document that can be edited by a vote of the Board of Health versus a bylaw vote of town meeting. And on that note too,
Yeah,
in the enforcement, that section at the bottom, I think you should take out the Board of Health, because how I read it is that the Board of Health will enforce it, the entirety of the document, just alongside the police, and I don't believe that is the case. I don't want people calling you at midnight when there's a party across the
right,
street.
yeah,
So,
no, right, that, I agree. It's, shouldn't read that way.
Yeah. so I think
Yeah.
just in terms of being able to edit
So
it down
you're
the
saying
road,
to add a nighttime of 6 dB into the
I would
document?
not add nighttime of 6 dB. I would reference that for this section, there is an additional noise bylaw covered under the Board of Health or Mass General Law, whatever the coding you want to put, and to reference it and say you can find more about it on the Board of Health's website or wherever you want to
No,
reference.
but.
But putting
right.
it in a physical bylaw, it requires 2/3 of town meeting to change.
Andrew, if that's for the BOH policy, right? Is that what you said originally? That if the Board of Health decides to include this in their existing policy, it would need to be ratified at town meeting. But
Correct.
If she went ahead, or if she gave us the blessing, or we decided as a committee that we're going to do this for our residents and include it here in the bylaw, she won't need to get ratification. It will be, if it's passed as a bylaw, it would be in the bylaw.
But in that case, I don't think you would reference the Mass General Law that gives the Board of Health the ability to make that change. It would be a
No,
standalone.
you mean
I-
what's in the bylaw right now and how we're referencing what's existing,
Correct.
what they're using now? So we're making this part of our bylaw.
Correct. But that then
Right.
if the Board of Health ever wanted to modify that, or if the state ever modified it, because you're basically not referencing something on their side that could change, you're hard coding the language into the bylaw. You're not saying per Mass General Law, chapter whatever, that could change down the road. You're stating this is our bylaw, agnostic of what they change there, because we specified the exact language of it.
So Andrew, are you saying that what we have there on lines 23 through 38 is good enough? That's what we had originally put in. Well, we added line 24 the other night.
Andrew,
I don't know.
originally this section started to just be an educational section.
Correct.
I know the selectmen were a little bit confused as well about it. And we just wanted people that if they had industrial noise concerns or a complaint, they looked up the town bylaw and they were, okay, this is what I do. And we were just merely directing them to what already exists, the Board of Health and how the Board of Health gets its authority and what the Board of Health uses for their regulations.
Right,
Yeah.
the Board of Health doesn't have this as a regulation. It's just we're enforcing, using the state standard.
Right, it's a
But
state,
right,
it's
the
CMR,
mechanism
it's
for
Code
the
of Mass
Board of
Regulation,
Health.
that's what a CMR is, so.
Right,
That gives the Code of Mass Regulation gives the Board of Health the authority to do what they're already doing.
right. I'm still not quite understanding what Mr. Pfaff is saying about the Board
Well,
of
I'm saying
Health
if we,
should put that.
if, like the
in our
ability to
own
lower the 10
regulation?
decibels to 6, right? That's a local Board of Health option.
Right.
Is that correct? That was
Yeah.
my understanding.
No, it can be written
It could
into a
be a town
bylaw.
option.
Well, you're both right. You're both right. What he's saying is if you put it in here and it wants to change, it's going to require 2/3. If you don't, the Board of Health can do it under whatever they want to do as far as the board. Is that my understanding, Mr. Pfaff?
That was my understanding, at least.
Okay.
You can do it either or, but it's certainly easier to get a 3-person committee to change something than it is 2/3 of town meeting.
Right. Well, that's
So if the
interesting.
Board of Health does it through their own sort of regulations, then it doesn't go through the town meeting.
Correct.
Correct.
That's my understanding.
That's what we've outlined here. Like the police get authority from a certain chapter, 4198,
Right,
gives the police
right.
authority to enforce blah, blah, blah. So you guys get your authority through these,
Right,
what we've listed here.
right.
And that authority is
The,
also giving you
CMR. Yep,
whatever you decide to agree on, you know? So
Okay.
that's what I was looking at for remedy, as far as, is there a remedy to this other than this document?
okay.
And I
Well,
feel that there is. We still may
Like
want
I'll-
to address it, and I'm
I'll
comfortable with it.
discuss that. Like I said, we'll discuss this. This is on our
Yeah.
agenda Tuesday morning.
Cindy, I see you have your hand up.
Yep, I just want to comment. This goes along with my frustration that I expressed at the beginning of the meeting. At least a month ago, we took a vote and said, we are not qualified to decide the ramifications of changing the standard to 6 dB. Now we're revisiting what we've already voted on, and this makes me crazy. Because it's like a little kid going from parent to parent to parent till they get the answer they want. How long are we going to keep doing this? Are we going to be
Yeah.
doing this in flipping July?
I agree. I mean, I would
I am
agree.
just so frustrated with this constant, okay, well, the votes don't count that we took before, and now we're going to try again and again and again.
Well, I
We
understand.
still don't
we-
have
we-
the technical expertise
Right.
on this committee to change. I'm not saying whether it's good or bad, okay? What I'm saying is the primary driving example is Deb's problem with Ken's being so far from the 10 that it's, how can they even operate that way? And the Board of Health is like chipping away at working that. Whether we try to change the standard without any technical expertise or not, isn't going to solve that problem. I mean, I thought I heard the Board of Health's been working on that for 2 years, and she's still listening to 70 at her property line. Let's stop playing with 4 dBs or whatever it is that we don't know what the ramifications are of changing that. Let's let the Board of Health do the job they're chartered to do, and keep working with Ken's to get it down to at least the state standard.
Well, you do speak a lot of truths there. We did take a vote, and part of this committee is, you do get new information and you do have new influences, and it is a process that does have to be fluid, and things are going to change from time to time.
So shall we close public comment, or is there more?
No, I think we're going to have public comment through the whole meeting for the most part.
Oh, okay.
As sections come up. So Lisa, I see you have your hand up.
I just want to say that, I've looked at participating in this committee as an opportunity to truly understand all facets of noise in this town. And I'm certainly grateful to have Heather on the committee and have the opportunity to talk to her expertise and just have the conversations that we've had, not just with Heather, with Chief Paulus, but also with our residents who are faced with these issues. And my goal is to find a solution and find a remedy. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk these things through and to get feedback and to approach this in a way, that could potentially be outside of the box. And so that I just want to say thank you for allowing the discussion. And that's where I'll end it. Thank you.
Okay. And I never want anybody to feel as though they haven't been heard. So I think everybody can say I've been at least fair in that regard.
Yep.
Are we comfortable with maybe taking another vote on this? Is that something where we all think we should do? And then we can.
We have one more comment before we move to that. Deb has her
Okay.
hand up.
I can't see that person.
Deb Demirio has her hand.
Okay, go ahead, Deb.
Hi everybody. Hi again. Okay, I just wanted to get some clarity and maybe ask Heather, because I just heard something I'd never heard before. And thank you to Cindy, because it has been a long haul, Cindy. It's been 2 years for us. But when we first made our original complaint, we were told by the police chief that he couldn't do anything because we didn't have a noise bylaw. And so my feeling is, for these loud, egregious noises, whether they're industrial or from other things, that everything really should be in here, because I never want anybody to be in that position again. He literally said there's nothing he could do. And so I'm grateful that this section is in here, even though it mimics Mass General Law. I've had the police chief say they can't do anything unless it's actually in a bylaw. Now, maybe that's not correct. I don't know. But what I just heard was that I think that the Board of Health can set their own policy so that if it's more restrictive, it would not even need to be in this bylaw. And I hadn't heard that before. My understanding was that it would need to be in the bylaw, and that comes from Ken Pullhouse. And so I guess if Heather can clarify that, if the board, is
Well, I'm
that
not
on the
exactly
table?
sure. It's what folks here are saying, that they're saying that, I know we have the authority to enforce this state chapter, but you know, in our authority to you know, tighten this regulation, that's what folks here are saying. So like I said, I was going to bring this to the board on Tuesday, and then we'll.
Deb, I think even the proposal, even if we put it in 6dB, it's not going to be handled by the police department,
No,
regardless of.
no,
what
it's
we do.
not. It's part of the, it would be part of a sound study that we would ask
Right.
an
It's
organization.
still going to
to
be
do.
handled with the people that are handling your problem now. It's just going to be a different level and maybe different hours. That would be the
Yep.
most it's going to be. The police
Correct.
department are going to come out and take readings that, you know, that's just not, it's too big of a problem for that.
Right,
This is, the
No,
police are
they-
going to be only geared towards temporary noise.
right. And they may be called on this, you know, to say it's generally a threat to health, or, you know, they can make
Right,
that, I
right.
think, determination, but they're not going to measure it. True.
Right. Go ahead, Cindy.
I just, the first part of Debbie's comment, I believe that that's why we made sure to have the Southborough Board of Health will lead enforcement with assistance from the police department, with the intent that if there's a situation going on, the people, and it's in the night when the Board of Health isn't there, the police need to respond, they need to document the claim, and then they need to pass it on to the Board of Health. So, you know, the police, it's not debatable whether the police can do something or not.
Yeah,
They
no,
can
that's my
take the
understanding
report
as
and
well,
pass it
Cindy,
on.
on the police's role. That's my understanding as well. They document and send a report. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And they do the same thing with the building, the planning board, or whether, if they see a violation, they send it off to them as well. So. Now, I mean, we've talked about this quite a bit. There's relatively no new information. It is possible maybe that the Board of Health might take a different turn on this, and that'd be great. Do we want to take a vote on anything? How does people feel about that? You want to take a vote on just leaving it the way we've had it right along?
I have one more thing to maybe contemplate as we've gone back and forth through this. Is the name of this section still accurate, or should it be something more generic, like this, since this is more of a reference? Should it be something like additional noise restrictions outside of this bylaw and maybe move down near the end of the document, or is this still the right place for it?
I mean, I'm all for making things simple, and that was brought out by some people. I mean, if this is supposed to be if we decided it's going to be educational and nothing in addition to, why can't we just say business and industrial noise will be handled by, we don't even have to list them, standing Mass General Law and standing Mass Code of Regulations and standing Board of Health policy, A, B, and C, and, you know, consult those areas. That way there, you're not getting tied down with the, like I think Mr. Pfaff said, the titles and things might change. Like, we're actually citing CMR 7. What if it's 7.102 is the new one? Like, we got to make the document, you know, a livable for a longer period of time, you know, that it would apply for, like, we could simplify that right down to just 3 sentences. Look, you have a noise complaint, it's industrial noise, boom, this is what I do. Board of Health or Mass General, you know, whatever. I think we could do that very easily. If we decide to go further, then we have to leave all this stuff in, and we have to do hours, and we have to do decibels. Decibels are very confusing to the layperson. I know we got a couple specialists on the board, but the average person, when you start talking, they do not understand decibels. I
Right.
know you guys think it's easy, but it's not. They don't understand. And I'm not sure even with the experience that I've had, I understand them fully. So, and I think it's going to be confusing if it is in the document. So, it's just what I'm thinking. What if do you? Let's just have with some hands. Who thinks of anything more about this section? Do we want to A, add, or do we want to leave it, or do we want to simplify it?
I think we should wait to hear what Heather hears back from the rest of her board. So why don't we just table this for now and move on to our next sections?
Okay. Tim, what is your thought?
We need to make a decision here. I mean, I want to hear what Heather comes back to say, but I think we need a stance tonight. We need to start sending this to legal. We need to send this to advisory. We need to send this back to the select board. I thought we were going to be wrapped up on Wednesday. It's Friday. We need to make a decision on what we're doing.
My request is, if this is informational, which it is today, move this to the bottom and let's continue. Right?
Yep.
I would have no objection to that.
I could live with
Okay.
that.
Because
Okay.
then it reinforces that we're not really adding anything to the bylaw, and it's just, and then we can, if we need to change it later in terms of per what you described, Peter, then.
And I'll look up, I can write up something that is simple if we decide to go the simple way.
But I like the text because it provides the statutes plus a little bit of description. So if somebody's reading it, they're like, what the heck is that? So, and it's just informational and it's at the end. Let's move
And
on.
it's a very good point that, when the legislature, amends things, they could take out a section, create a section, or change a section, and things could get renumbered, and you don't know, unless somebody's actually looking through the documents, you don't know when that happens, and then you're out of sync.
Right. Okay, well, I think
So-
we're all in, does anybody else want to speak about that? It looks like we'll just put it at the end and we'll wait to hear from, maybe Tuesday, the Board of Health will give us some insight.
And hopefully the Board of Health will like a more restrictive standard, is my personal feelings.
Yeah, and we'll have time before we meet with advisory to decide what we want to do with that particular section.
I think Andrew has one last thing to say here.
Go ahead, Andrew.
I would rename it. I think that was a good idea. Because right now, if I read this, I think this is the only part of the bylaw that covers business and industrial noise, but the bylaw covers business and industrial noise, right? So it's maybe additional ones that cover business and industrial, but I just because right now I would say, oh, this is the only thing that covers it. I'm good. I can make as much noise in my business as I want, right? But the businesses are covered above.
I wouldn't put the word restrictions. I would just say additional regulations or information. Yeah, information.
Yeah, noise regulations or something like that.
Right. I would put industrial noise. Okay. Yeah, because you have it down in line 151.
Hey guys, how come I look frozen?
You are?
Am I
I have
frozen
you
to
blacked
everyone?
out. Do you have your camera on?
Oh God, here we go again.
No, you're frozen.
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Really?
Yeah, you're black. Oh, yeah, now are you there? Yeah, you're still
Yeah.
black. You're at the top.
Really?
You're just not moving.
Does that do anything?
You could try and rejoin.
Did somebody walk across your keyboard again?
No, just sitting here. All right, I'm gonna try leaving and rejoining.
Okay.
Bye.
So are we good on that section? I scrolled up.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna put, I think that's a good strategy for that, section right now. That's a loose end that hopefully we can tie up in short order.
Oh, there you go, Cindy. You're muted though.
Here we go.
There we go.
There you go. Welcome
Thank
back.
you.
Okay, so Pete, where do you want to go next?
Why don't we start at the top?
Yeah. I mean, everybody's pretty good on scope.
Yep.
Um,
So I did my homework assignment in section 2. I ran this section by Andrew. It's convenient. He's on the call. His suggestion was what I put here in yellow, which was defining, essentially bringing a noise component to that work activity. And again, using the same thing we used in the line above it to tie back into what the activity is. So that was more in line with what he suggested from his comments previously.
did we, okay, yep. That sounds good to me.
I just sent you something, Tim. I had the chance to talk to the building department, and she gave me some confirmations on the permit language. So I just sent that to you, and I aligned it with what was above, with noise associated with.
Hasn't come through yet.
Here, if you want me to read, I can read it to you if you'd like.
Sure.
So any work noise associated with residential or commercial new construction permits or demolition permits is only allowed, and let me just see, why didn't this send? Okay, let's see if this works now. Send. Okay, you should get it now.
Yep.
So that's different than a regular building permit, right?
These are residential or commercial new construction permits.
Right. But the average, I mean, we kind of know that what we're talking about a new structure and a new, like those non-conforming lots or whatever we call them there, I forgot already. But-
That's what I asked her about.
Right, but
Yep.
the average person is probably not gonna know that.
So this also doesn't read exactly what we were saying with residential, which kind of covers anything done in a residential or commercial new construction. So it would have to say with residential new construction. Or-
Residential and commercial, I don't know. So if you want to say residential new construction.
I would do it the way Tim did it. Just make it residential new construction permits or commercial new construction
Yeah,
permits.
so go ahead and do that that
You
way.
just
That's
do it
fine.
that way, you take out the confusion.
So if we do that though, we don't cover Andrew's second comments where it's talking about work that generates an unreasonable disturbance beyond the property line. So it becomes a very wordy thing. I'm for getting the wording right of the permit wording, but I still think we need to include the generates an unreasonable disturbance.
You would still include that but where it says with a new construction permit, you would say with a new residential construction permit and with a new commercial construction permit.
From a legal point of view, can you just eliminate residential and commercial? Therefore, the new construction permit should cover both.
which
Is
is what.
there any other kind of permit, you think? I wouldn't
Well, yeah.
imagine there.
The answer is yes, there's a lot more. And Andrew has his hand up and he was educating me on this topic earlier when we talked about this.
So if you want additions and stuff like that, it's a different type. There's lots of permits, but we were trying to keep this to new construction because we know that it will be continuous for a certain amount of time. It could go on for a long period of time. Now, I'm just curious, this work that generates an unreasonable beyond the property line.
I can explain this real quick before Andrew speaks. The idea is that if you have anything that makes noise, a truck running makes noise. Therefore, a truck running would not be permitted to happen. Walking the construction site could make noise. You may not be doing an activity of construction yet, but there could be an activity going on that is generating noise. So it was a bit ambiguously wide. So by using the same language as the exterior noise standards, it allows that same context of what is deemed unreasonable to further define that activity.
What if we took out an unreasonable and just said a disturbance beyond the property line?
Yeah, well, that could be anything. That could be like like barely audible disturbance. I know
Are we covering this in the description though? Aren't we covering those types of noises? Like you can't have an idling truck and, you can't start.
Those were just examples. That's
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, you either define noise or a nuisance noise as a certain thing, right? And then you reference it in the document. But when you say any noise, it could be literally any noise. So how I read it is at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, if the contractor was walking around picking up trash, making barely any noise, that would not be permissible because it was some noise, right? It wasn't but it wasn't noise that would have been constituted underneath the other standards as excessive.
right. Whereas if you say unreasonable, walking the site and cleaning up, is not unreasonable.
Correct.
But they should be done by 2 o'clock.
But that's again, this isn't a construction work hours. This is a noise bylaw.
Right.
Right. So that's the whole idea. Remember, what if somebody was painting their house quietly or they were sweeping, right, and not really making any noise? What in that effect, you're basically saying a construction work hours, not a noise bylaw.
Right.
And I think that's a whole different bylaw.
Yeah.
So police are just using discretion when someone calls.
Yes. Which if we're
So
not
they're
going to put in
inside the house
decibels,
and
is what we have.
the guns going off. The nail guns going off. Or maybe they're outside. So, okay.
Right. If it's 3, 4 o'clock on a Saturday and they're doing a roof and the nail gun's going off, right, that's unreasonable.
Yeah.
But if it's 4 o'clock on a Saturday and they're sweeping up or they're just packing their truck and not really making much noise, they could still be on site. Or if they're inside doing work, not making any noise or whatever, still permissible. I mean, especially
we have to get the right terms. So I think everybody's pretty good with this as long as we get the legal right term. And it sounds like we need the terms that Lisa sent: residential new construction permit and commercial new construction permit.
Yep, I think that sounds good. And then I would, in your definitions, you have legal holidays. I would just call them noise holidays. Right, because they're not really in a law, right? At least in this version, right? You put the other holidays. So if you just call them are not allowed on, town noise holidays, whatever you want to call it.
I think we were going to define the holidays. I think we were going to enumerate them in the
So
definition.
Tim, after construction permit, put a comma and put commercial new construction permit before the or. No, before the or. You don't want to say or. You want to say thing, comma, the thing, comma, then or demolition permit.
Yeah. That incorporates Lisa's language.
Right. We just wanted the right title. We had the right idea. We just didn't have the right titles.
So somebody proofread this and tell me if we got the context correct.
Tim, can you move Lisa's over on top of this one or not?
Yeah, I can. I couldn't do it when I was typing, but I can do it now.
Okay. Well,
Residential new construction permit, commercial construction permit, demolition permit is
And we'll obviously, when we do our presentation, we'll have to articulate that a residential new construction permit is not somebody putting on a deck, is not somebody doing a minor renovation. It's a new structure on a a lot. That's what it is. It's a new building, which they can do all week long. And, you know, we want to have a break in the winter and on a weekend. Where the other stuff that, you know, you pull a permit to put a deck, you may want to do it on a weekend because that's the only time you have free. Does that make sense? Because I think the average Joe's going to read that and go, oh, I need a permit for a deck. It's a new deck and I can't do it. You know, that's where there's going to be some confusion. So we're going to have to do some education on that. You follow me?
Yeah.
Maybe
All right, is every-
change it to new building construction, right? It's the full, because the idea is the full building, right? It's somebody putting up a new house, a new commercial
Well,
property.
it's whatever the title of that, what you need at the building department. It's my understanding it says new construction permit. Like we don't want it, we want to make sure it's exactly what the building department hands out, which is,
That's what she told me, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're good.
you follow me?
Yep.
Because if it's
Can we
something
look
different,
that-
then
can
you're
we
gonna
look
say,
that
oh,
up?
that's
I don't
different.
know if we can look that up on their website. I don't know if it names their permits, but she told me it was new construction, residential or commercial.
I think it's
Yeah.
buried in the actual permit itself that you apply for. It's under the building permit purview. Like there's one building permit, but inside I think you could say like new home construction or new commercial construction.
And that's, and Lisa, if can you send this to her or whoever it is, he or her, to make sure we got it right? I mean, it's an easy change if we have to do a tweak to it. at
Yeah,
some point.
I can ask them.
Yeah.
We can send.
Because
it to them
you
if we
were
could-
lucky enough to actually get a hold of that person, although,
It wasn't the actual building commissioner. She wasn't around. It was the assistant.
okay. All right, so I think we're all pretty comfortable with that.
Should it say this construction activity shall not be allowed on Sundays or legal holidays?
No,
No.
I think we just
No, we
decided
just
that
talked
this
about
is a
that.
noise bylaw, so not a construction
Right.
bylaw. So we just leave
Right.
it with the unreasonable disturbance, the noise created.
It's noise only, not activity. So they can work as long as they're not bothering anybody.
And they're not violating their permits.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if they wanted to paint the interior,
So if they show up with big equipment and they're driving around on the lot, I can call and someone
Yep.
should come out and.
yep, that's what I would interpret that definitely.
Right.
Because personally, I think they shouldn't even show up.
Well, as long as they're not making noise,
Be
they can
walking
show up.
around on the lot and moving around with their equipment.
Well, they can't make noise. That's the whole thing. It's a noise bylaw. They can't make noise. So they can, you know, this is America. People can go about their business and do what
So
they need
if
to
they
do.
show up, okay, so if they show up at 5 in the morning and, go crunching across the apron of big rocks that go into the site so that they can knock off their mud off their equipment on the way out. And, and it wakes me up at 5 a.m. and,
Well, I think you could call the
yeah, I
police.
would call the police. Hopefully this time they'd come out and do something.
Well, because at 5 a.m, that would be an unreasonable disturbance.
Right.
Whereas at
Right, but
3 o'clock on
now
Saturday afternoon, it might not be unreasonable. It's just a disturbance, depending how loud that actually was.
Right.
But at 5 a.m, where everything else is quiet around you, hopefully, and they're making enough noise that they're waking you up, then that's unreasonable.
Right.
And that's perhaps
I
the
want
reason
you to
why
enforce this law,
scenario is good.
Lee.
Sorry, what'd you say?
I want you to enforce this bylaw for me then, Lee.
Yeah, I have to get another job yet, right?
Yep.
All right. So
Community
I think we're
negotiation.
pretty. Do we have any more things that we needed to change? I think we were pretty good, right? We're just going to wait and see on the industrial noise. We're going to do that the next meeting. Go ahead, Cindy.
I just want to, going back to the things that we've put in or taken out since the last, since the public forum and since the selectmen last saw it. And I think Tim still had a concern about, we took out the homeowners section. Tim, do you want to pursue that or putting that back in, or?
I'll make it super quick. I would like to see it in here. I think it adds some level of it keeps us in the same vein of where we were from the public forum, from the previous feedback, from everything else. And it's a clear definition. But I don't need to rehash it. I could simply be a yes, no. If you guys like it, I save the line. We could just bring that back in. We don't like it, it doesn't go back in. I'm over the arguing for it or against it. So it's up to the committee.
Yeah, I'm actually, I don't even remember what I voted, but I'm all for keeping the thing as kind of like the way we had it. So there's consistency. There's some consistency there. And,
Show us
and I
what
thought we
it's like if you put that line back in.
The line,
everybody,
this was the line where we were.
Pure and simple. I don't think it hurts anything. And the people who were threatened by the, it's my castle thing, it says it right there. You're good.
right.
You can do
And the
your
selectmen
thing.
didn't even bring any of that up as being an opposition. So, I
I
would
just
say,
put it back in. I don't think it hurts.
does it sound like everybody wants to put it back in? Why don't we just do a thumbs up if you want it back in, although I can't see John. John?
Yeah, fine.
Okay.
Yeah, just put it back in. It's just for the very simple reason that it's been there forever, and at the last forum, people saw it. So, it doesn't really change.
Okay, I can't see Cindy.
Oh.
I mean, I can't see Lisa.
I abstain.
Okay. So 5-1, it's back in.
Not one. It's abstain.
Oh, I'm sorry. 5-5. 5 out of 6. How's that? Is that how you're supposed to say it?
I think it's five voted for and 1 abstained.
Okay.
Yep, that's how I'll record it.
Just
Okay.
put 501.
501. Okay. All right. So
I'll fix the formatting later too. So I'm just gonna keep moving on. We're okay with it, everything as is written, right? So we can move on to the new section 3.
Yep.
yeah.
Okay, I'll deal with the formatting later.
Now, can you go back for a second? I thought about this truck idling thing. Now, this is a noise bylaw. So if there was a truck that was quiet and you couldn't hear it past the property line, like I'm just trying to think about that. I don't know, with that fan up there that he was at one of the meetings, he says, I want to stop my truck in the driveway. then this won't let me do it. Well, if it's not making noise to your neighbor, like if your neighbor can't hear it, that should be an allowed activity. So, you know what I mean? Like, the first one is about noise. The second one is about activity, but it prohibits an activity, but it's not anything related to necessarily noise created by that.
So Pete,
Unless
let me
you,
have a
I guess,
suggestion.
all right, you just highlighted it.
They create noise.
Let me have a suggestion. We've been using that unreasonable line. It would be added here as well, because remember we called this noisily at one point, and then we said, well, noisily became create noise. So I think we now have since at that point come up with a stronger wording and a reasonable disturbance beyond the property line. So I think if we just bring that down here, it covers everything. And there's a better definition than noisily.
Yep,
Yeah,
and applies the same standard as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And that would apply to 2.
Yeah, it would apply to everything. Yep.
Right. Right.
It's a noise level.
So
Right.
can I ask a
Including
question? then?
children who are never
So then-
unreasonable.
Yeah, go ahead, sure. Go ahead, Lisa.
So if there's a truck idling, and if we didn't have this generate an unreasonable disturbance, because honestly, I think these are activities that we know that do create noise, and we're trying to prohibit them. Now you're saying unreasonable disturbance, and you're giving this to the enforcement officer, their discretion. But you find these laws other places, and they can say, oh, no, that's not an unreasonable noise. And I have the discretion over that right now. So you're leaving it up to the police officer to make the judgment on this.
Mm.
When
I don't. but
it's already said someplace else that truck idling, no more than 5 minutes. There's also an
we're not taking
environmental
that out, are we?
reason behind it too.
But I mean, there are diesel trucks that you can't even hear them. They're so quiet. Like,
But that's not
I can't see
everyone.
why
There's
we would,
some.
you know,
Okay.
they're making some of these buses now that are just so quiet, you can't even tell if they're running. So I don't know why if somebody has something, they maintain their vehicle, they want to start it up and warm it up, and because I don't know that we should be prohibiting that. I think we should be focusing on the noise part. Go ahead, Tim.
The beyond the property line doesn't make sense for all these things because some of these aren't necessarily on a property. So although I like this, the beyond the property line doesn't cover the full picture.
Hmm.
So just remove it. Then how?
I think if we just remove it, we can be close, but it's a bit ambiguous. So
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So if we go back to create noise, it's still almost better, but it's still vague because if you can make noise within that space, that's technically what we're saying.
Can you put an or in there, or over the property line, or so it covers both somehow?
I think these are just activities that are prohibited
If I may make a
because they
recommendation.
make
Yeah.
noise.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Thank you. So my recommendation would be to take the section out. You already have the next section must adhere to MGL chapter 9016. MGL chapter 9016A is that no car or truck, no matter of gross vehicle weight, can't idle for more than 5 minutes. And that's finable by the DEP for $100 per violation, up to $500. So it's covered elsewhere in regulations that a car can't idle but more than 5 minutes, whether or not it's making noise nuisance or not. And if a vehicle was making noise nuisance, it would be prohibited as part of the bylaw. You don't need to spell it out individually.
So Andrew, you're right about that chapter, but those laws only apply to public ways. So in a public way, that's correct, but chapter 90 doesn't apply to your own property. So, and neither does speeding or stop signs or anything like that. You can't write that on private property. So that's why we put that in here, because we wanted to address the private property component of that. So technically you can speed around your yard and go 80 miles an hour. There's no speed limit. Private property is a different thing. So that's kind of why we had it in there. But, I would like to focus more on the noise than the actual activity. Is what I was trying to get at. But,
As long as the 5 minutes is in there, doesn't that take away the officer? I mean, it's either over 5 minutes or under 5 minutes. I think that takes away the ability of the officer to say, well, it's not reasonable or unreasonable. Hey, it's been going on for 20 minutes. That's way beyond. I think the 5 minutes is the savior there.
yeah. Go ahead. Did I see a hand somewhere?
Hi, Peter, what about people who in the middle of the winter need to, auto start their cars to defrost? That's usually more than 5 minutes.
That's what I mean.
Like too much noise.
But if it creates noise, it's a problem. But if it doesn't,
Right.
then it shouldn't
it's
be.
not an
That's
issue.
my point.
Well, right now,
Correct.
These are trucks that are in excess of 10,000 pounds.
I know, but it's noise. Who cares what size the thing is? It's about noise.
All right.
I make a motion, we vote on whether or not we keep this section. Number 2 of prohibited activities in section 3.
What you mean we should?
Oh, we
I
lost
just like to.
We lost Cindy.
Cindy.
Yeah.
I mean,
Cindy, are you there?
no, she's
We lost Cindy.
yeah.
Wait till she rejoins us. Well, so your motion though was so your motion is to delete the section 2.
My motion is for us to take a vote on whether we want to delete or keep number 2 in this prohibited activities section.
So to state it as a motion, I would suggest that you state the motion as deleting the truck idling number 2 of section 3, and then we can vote on it because it'll have the same effect of what you were doing.
That's not my intention of what I was doing. I just want us to
Okay.
agree. I want us to agree to keep it in or keep it out so we can move forward through the document.
So Peter, quick question. So if I'm a truck driver, I drove my rig home. It's morning. I need to start it just because to get the engine warm. Without a bylaw, why would the police show up? What's the enforcement for that?
Yeah, it would be totally, whether it's disturbing the peace, it would be how loud it was, and if the officer thought it was disturbing, how close it was maybe to the other house. Could somebody sleep through it? Like, there's all kinds of factors, a part of being vague. I get it. I just was trying to accommodate somebody that, has maybe a modern diesel vehicle that doesn't make the noise that, and the neighbor, and they live far away from their neighbor,
I think we covered that though with line 27.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
and you do. So, we can, that's fine.
Deb
You
has
just
her
say
hand.
it's not if somebody says I can't start my car, yes, you can, as long as it doesn't make an unreasonable noise.
And this isn't car. This is over 10,000 pounds. The
Right.
car is,
Well, be a vehicle.
yeah.
Yeah.
Deb
So I'm fine
has her
with
hand
that.
up.
You want to take a quick vote, Tim? You want to vote to
Well,
leave it in as is?
Deb's,
Let's hear Debbie first, and then we take a vote.
Hi, everybody. It's Debbie Demuria, 58 Flag Road. I'd be in favor of keeping this section. I mean, it does mimic Mass General Law, but when you look up noise bylaws, this is the major, regulation for the state. I think it has less subjectivity. And I think, as Cindy said, is it really over 5 minutes or not? This is for really the truck that's like delivering ice cream or something down at Moro's, or somebody who's left a car on the side of the road and it's running while they go in and grab a pizza or something. I don't think that this law is really intended to, go onto your property and tell you what, if you can warm up your car and get the ice off your car or something like that. But I would say that for enforcement, I would really appreciate that we leave this in. There's instances of police, reports that we can find in town where it says, we went down to investigate this noise and the truck was idling, but they didn't do anything about it. So under Mass General Law, they should have done something about it. If it's idling over 5 minutes, they're not allowed to idle. And this falls under the air quality regulations. So this is really the main one. I think it would be, some people say you don't need to have Mass General Law in this bylaw because it's there, but this is a reminder to all of us that we shouldn't be, idling. And so I guess my position would be, I'd appreciate if we could leave it in, and maybe it can be shortened, but I think this is actually, I think you guys put verbatim what the law states. And so I think it should be left in. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. And it's not just the idling, it's the idling with unreasonable noise. So why don't we take I'll make a motion that we do a poll to leave this in. Do I have a second?
Yeah, well, I think Tim made that motion already.
Oh, well,
So I'll mark Tim moved and you second.
okay, great. So a yes is to keep it. Yes, to keep. So Tim,
Yes.
yes or no? Yes. Lisa,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
and Peter. Yes. We have
All right. So you unanimously decided
100% unanimous.
not to change our document. Okay.
Yes.
What about line 27? Are we going to accept that?
Yes.
So do we need to vote on that, or we just could? I think we can just approve the changes we made on block at the end if we want to.
What was that last part you said, Lee?
We can, at the end of the meeting, we can approve all the changes that we made on block as one.
Okay. Okay.
Just quick question. I really don't want to open this up for debate. Does hooting actually add anything to this section, or does it just make it stick out for no reason? I don't really know what a hooting.
Yeah, I don't know what a
Yeah,
hoot,
I don't know
that
where
a
that
hoot is
came from
different
either.
from a yell or a shouting.
So can we eliminate it without a big debate? I don't want to. If it's no, then let's not do it. I'm just wondering because it makes
I would
this
just
section
leave it.
stick out.
Delete it, move on.
I was going to say leave it because someone could say, what do you mean? I wasn't shouting. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't whistling. I was hooting, and that's not part of this.
Hoot.
I make a motion. We vote on whether or not we keep hooting it. I make a motion to take hooting out. It's clearer.
Hooting. Yes. Okay, Tim.
Yes.
Oh, so you want yes to take out.
Yeah.
Lisa,
No.
John,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Cindy.
Take it out.
Yes. And I'll do a yes too.
So that's 5-1. Okay.
Okay. Moving down through this. Are we stopping on any more of these?
So when I'm looking at this, the 7:30 p.m. kind of like stands out. I'm like, can't make your mind up. Like
The
everything else is by
9:30?
hour. It just doesn't feel right to me.
7:30?
9 to
Not
maybe 9 to
9:30.
7.
Okay.
9:48.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we should be consistent 9 to 7.
Well, that was a compromise last time. It was 9
Yeah.
o'clock. Put it back to 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock's fine, Cindy?
Yep.
Okay, so no objections?
Thank you,
Yeah.
Cindy. I'm just trying to keep it more simpler.
Thanks. Okay, so,
Anything that will simplify this thing and get it done at this point works.
so
Item
this-
8, sorry, the animal one. Maybe the lawyers would take care of it, but as you read that, then you say emitted by an animal. Should we change that unreasonable, loud disturbances and noises by an animal, blah, blah, blah. So it just reinforces you're reading that and it's like,
Yeah,
you know,
by an
2
animal
sentences.
is good.
Can I ask why that's in here? Because I don't think that rated high
The roosters
on the
Roosters,
survey, right?
and barking
I live
dogs.
near a kennel.
Yeah, barking
Oh.
dogs and roosters.
The kennel is my Chems.
That was based on research from the prior versions and maybe some other town bylaws
And the chief also felt
yeah.
that this was something that he wanted to see in there because there was nowhere for, if somebody called complaining about an animal, there was the law enforcement had nothing to lean on.
Okay.
Andrew has something.
Just one on the liquor license one, when you define it as plainly audible, is it's adding another layer of level of noise than you currently have defined.
Right. And that was done on purpose. So plainly audible is a term where you can hear the conversation. You could recognize the song, like that's plainly audible, where, you know, it's a higher standard than just, oh, I hear some noise, but I can't really understand what they're talking about, but they're making noise.
Do we have it defined? Is that one of
Yeah.
our
That's
definitions?
just if you looked it up in the, you know, any law
Yeah.
dictionary would have it.
but I think all we have to do is just define it. I don't think it's currently defined in our document.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would define it separately.
I think I made a note to add that last
Yeah.
time.
Yeah,
it's
132
Yeah, right there.
says,
We
Yeah.
never, we never defined it. I put a
Right.
note down there the last time.
I wonder if I could,
I do see that as being a hot button issue for people that like to go to Owen O'Leary's and sit outside, or Ola in the summertime, and I got to wrap it up by 9. Could cause an issue. Just could be a lightning rod. Just giving you a heads up.
yep, and we know it.
So Andrew, Owen O'Leary's we felt would end up being covered because the plainly audible standard really Route 9 makes more noise than would be coming off of the deck at Owen O'Leary's. Ola is probably a better example of one that could be more problematic.
Yeah, I mean that's close to Route 9 too.
Yeah, but it's not literally on Route 9
Yeah.
in the same way.
Close to the Route 9, then probably the deck is.
Plus, at that point, it's got a traffic light too. So a lot of the traffic is already stopped. So it's a little bit quieter when that.
Could we say adjacent to a residential neighborhood?
Well, that would, probably exempt exempt Owens, but it certainly would not exempt Ola.
Right,
Nope.
but for Owens, there's no need to end it at the 9 PM. I
Right,
mean, nobody's gonna complain. There are no houses. So if we
right,
just,
exactly. And there's so
So
much
if-
other ambient noise that, it's not going to rise to, you couldn't be able to tell the difference, unless, like they were watching a game or something and, there was a big score.
So
About it.
let me just point out that the only way that any of this gets enforced is if somebody calls on that place. So if they're being disturbed by the noise, and they have the right to enforce the bylaw by how we're writing it, right? So if nobody calls, there's no concern. But if somebody does call because there is a disturbance, then I think we have it defined in here at some point that they have to be identified persons, unless that was just the one line. So whoever it is has to be an identified person that has the disturbance to have the police come investigate it. So if we're good on most of this at this point, Pete, this will be the most appropriate point for Lisa's homework for that approach.
Oh, for the
The leaf blowers,
leaf
because this
blowers.
was the prohibited activities section.
Let me get it to you.
I'm just trying to look up plainly audible. There actually is quite a few definitions on it.
There are.
So we should probably figure out what that means. And it is in, I guess, other town bylaws is where they're referring it to.
Yeah, I mean, we pulled it from multiple places it's been seen.
Talk about 9 to 7 through, yeah. You could say plainly audible is a sound such as in a conversation where you could hear what is being said, a song that you could recognize what is being sang, that kind of, I don't know how we could put that out, but.
Can we table it for right now, or do we want to try to solve that before we move on? You're okay tabling it?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, we all think we know what we need to, what we're trying to do. We just have to, I'll just do some research and see if I can come up with the right one.
Okay. So Pete, you're good to give this the couple minutes we promised last meeting?
Yeah.
All yours, Lisa.
So, as we know, leaf blowers were the #1 noise disturbance reported through the survey. And we've gone back and forth with this. We tried to carve out a time that we don't have to have excessive use when there's no leaves on the ground, when it's the nicest time of summer, when people want to be outside enjoying their space and not have to listen to additional noise from the leaf blowers. So this is what, and I know that it seemed like the BOS was, looking at how we had the language that we crafted for this, and maybe it was a little confusing because, it was on one side or the other side of this time, the way that we had said it. So I think this is a little more straightforward. And it basically says that only one gas-powered leaf blower is allowed to be in use per property between May 15th and October 15th. And then, because I know that the cemeteries are a sticking issue, the Southborough town cemeteries will be exempted from this provision.
So is Southborough Town Cemetery a particular cemetery, or is that just describing cemeteries in the town of Southborough?
So it would be, I'm assuming there's only 2 town cemeteries from what I could gather.
So these are cemeteries that are owned by the town?
Yeah, I think they are.
Yeah.
I believe
Cindy?
the old burial
Yeah.
ground,
Burial ground.
and then the cemetery between 85 and what's the other road? Middle Road.
Okay, so that is a proper now. It's not like it doesn't. There are no private cemeteries that you know of in Southborough.
There are not.
Okay. So then this is fine. as a proposal.
Okay, this can,
Go ahead, Cindy.
okay, I just want to point out, A, that this doesn't cover the fields, blowing off the fields, and B, it would still leave something in there about leaf blowers, which the selectmen asked us to remove the leaf blowers because they were a lightning rod.
Would leaf blowers, I mean, we did kind of deal with leaf blowers a little bit with contracted hours, right? So that would,
Yep.
that would fall under that. So you couldn't do it on the hours that we said, that's paid contracted work. So it does actually, we did attack leaf blowers a little bit, although nobody really picked up on it at the selectmen's meeting, but you would have that period of time on, you know, earlier on Saturday and then none on Sunday and the holidays. So, I mean, it's not like we didn't do anything with leaf blowers, but we did it without mentioning them. So I think that leaf blowers is a lightning rod for opposition. Go ahead, Tim. I see your hand up.
I'm somewhere torn on this still. I think, like, you know, despite the fact we were told they're going to remove it, I would be okay. I'd be okay leaving it in and letting the next level remove it, because we still have to go through advisory, still have to go through the select board. I'm not okay with one. Cindy, I wonder what you would say in that regard. As much as I know one doesn't disrupt the homeowner, the average homeowner that has one, which is where the part that I've been finding myself standing, representing the homeowner through this process. I think two would maybe make it more reasonable for the commercial activities, and it only adds 3 dB of actual noise to the situation, which is a minimal add. And it tries to show the restriction of what we're trying to attempt to do. So I would be okay leaving this in through the round that we're doing and let the select board and let the advisory make their comments, see if they support or don't support it from that. But I do think it's a lightning rod. So I think any time we keep this in, we are drawing the ire of people that are less restrictive, which will make it more of a target come town meeting. So that's my stance on it.
Any others? Go ahead, Lisa.
So I just want to remind you, in the definition that I think we have, it talks about leaf blowers as gas as well as electric powered. Maybe this is a great way to encourage people to purchase electric and try those out. So it's not like we're restricting, you know, we're just restricting a one gas powered leaf blower per property. And during this time in the summer, when it's so nice out, and we know that the grass clippings help to fertilize the grass, we're hoping that the contract for the fields, they decide to not blow the clippings because they realize that it's harassing and, you know, disturbing the neighbors.
I think we probably would just end up mowing it again.
Correct.
Well, they're going to mow twice in a week anyways.
No, we're just gonna
That's
keep
what's part
mowing
of the
until there's no
contract.
clippings. So you're not gonna get the leaf blower, but you're gonna get the mower noise.
Well, if they're mowing it twice in a week, chances are there shouldn't be a lot of clippings.
Yeah, they
No.
shouldn't have to blow.
If the
Well,
grass is
they
wet,
shouldn't have to blow it in the first place.
Right.
hold on,
So-
guys, if the grass is wet, I have to go over it again to spread it. If that doesn't work, I take out the leaf blower. So I'm against any of this restriction, partly because of my libertarian sort of background. And I want to add, the point is, I acknowledge the noise issues that our citizens and our neighbors commented on the survey. However, I want to ask you guys, is the noise complaints really due to the summer where you're in and out for 10, 15 minutes. Cindy, these teams go in and out. They need to make money. They're not hanging around blowing for the heck of blowing. It's the fall and the springtime where they have crews for 2 to 3 hours that with the hurricane blowers where they have 1 or 2 guys riding these blowers with a crew of leaf backpacks. That's where the noise is, and we're not even touching that. So I'm against this because I don't think it really addresses the fundamental issue where the noise is, which is really the fall and the springtime.
This is the time when people are sitting outside. They're trying to sit down and have dinner, and they're next door.
I acknowledge that, and I understand that.
Yeah. So it's when we're really outdoors. In the spring, yeah, we're not really outdoors that much. We're in the house. We may hear it.
But
In the fall, same thing. It's cold.
But
You may not hear it as much.
I can tell you, we've been out getting ready for dinner. A crew comes up, starts doing the neighbor up the street. By the time I sit down, they're gone. It's a half hour. Cindy, how can you, for a residential property, how long does it take to do a typical small yard?
Well, Southborough doesn't have a lot of small yards, but I mean, typically the crew is in and out of there in 15 to 20 minutes.
Correct.
I mean, I agree that, it is a concern. However, it's a small concern, a short period of time, maybe if the grass is wet, or maybe if they're just blowing off the walkway. I would like it in there. However, I don't think it's worth leaving it in there for the chance of it being defeated. Plus, the selectmen not liking it either. I think on its face, it's good. It's good intention. It means well. It does address a concern. However, I was wondering what that time was.
So just for a quick point of order, we said we'd give this 10 minutes for this section, and then we take a hard vote on it. We have 3 hands up right now. If we could get the last comments before we do it, I think
I just want to comment that we took a vote. We have the vote results. We said that we would only entertain changing that vote if there was some new information. There's no new information. It's just arguing about the wording. It's still the fact that the leaf blowers, several people wanted the leaf blower, voted to take the leaf blower lines out because of the selectman's suggestion. That's all.
Okay. Go ahead, Lisa.
During that meeting, there were a lot of the selectmen that they were fine with this. They were definitely divided, but then they were like, oh, we need to give you direction. But they didn't even, I don't think they even, were even thinking about what the residents had to say and what they've shown up and said time and time again. But my other point here is this is a very small section. And if someone at town meeting doesn't want it in there, they can make the amendment to have it removed. So I think it's important it stays. It shows that we've listened to our residents who have spoken up and that we're trying to find a balance and giving them some relief from the noise that's been disturbing them. So I hope that you'll at least keep it in here. And if you don't want to, if it doesn't come down to us, leave it up to the BOS. But I think I think our residents should know that we have listened to them.
Well, I mean.
Thank you.
Yeah. And
let's get hear from Andrew if we can, Pete.
go ahead, Andrew.
Thanks, everybody. I originally put my hand up just so people know there's 3 cemeteries in town. One is private. It's the Burnett Memorial one. Probably doesn't change anything.
Shoot, that's right. I forgot about
probably
that.
Doesn't change anything behind St. Mark's. I just figured I'd let you know that there is a third. I originally, just so you know, I originally didn't have much of a problem with this. I didn't really like it. I thought it was a lightning rod and probably should come out when it was 1 and 2. But as somebody that has 7 acres of land and has 2 gas-powered leaf blowers myself, I would not support it with this in there. But that's just my opinion.
I mean, okay. I don't think anybody can say we didn't listen. I mean, we put it in there. It was in our draft for 6 versions. And then upon, review for the selectmen, we took it out. Like, we did the right thing. We listened, we put it in, and then we did what, we're an ad hoc committee where we're supposed to help the selectmen make this decision. They've given us some guidance, whether we like it or not. And it was a unanimous vote. It wasn't like it was even split. We got to listen to them, and we've already voted on this before. I think our vote should stand unless there's some extremely extenuating circumstances. Otherwise, the vote should stand. So I'm sorry, but unless I hear something, extreme, I think it should stand as is. Let's go to the next subject.
Did we need
got
to
one.
take a vote?
We took a vote on
We
Wednesday.
took a vote, so I mean,
Well, no, I meant on whether to add this.
No, somebody,
if you want to make a motion, Lee, to take a
I'm
vote
not,
to add it.
I thought Lisa had, that's why.
I make a motion to add this to this new version to the document, to the draft.
Second.
Okay, Tim? Yes or no, add that?
Lisa, would you like to amend your motion to include 2 gas-powered leaf blowers?
No.
Then I don't support it.
Okay, Lisa,
Yes.
John,
No.
Lee,
No,
Cindy,
No,
and I'm a no as well.
Okay, so on that
and
vote,
I know it's largely just practical. I mean, if it's gonna get
Right.
eliminated anyway, then as
We
much
don't
as I
know that.
whoa. We've had
Anyway,
the vote. Can we move on to
All
another
right,
let's
subject?
move on.
okay, so
It's,
on that point, that was the last thing with the prohibited activities. So that we'd be moving on to new section number 4. I'm renumbering as we go. Exemptions. So this, the biggest thing we have in this section we need to talk about is kids, unless other people have more things to add to this section from public forums. We didn't get to this the last meeting, so
As we should call it, children, right?
we can definitely start with that.
Because I'm somebody's child too, right?
No, I was thinking children under the age of 16 was for an arbitrary age that seems like when kids would be, in their to be able to control themselves better, but I don't know if that's the best approach.
So,
Can,
the issue
Can
I
you just-
had with this is that when we start talking about the noise that children are making, there's like generalized mayhem, running around. And then there's also doing something organized, like playing a game of pickup basketball in the driveway, which can make a fair amount of noise, I'm sure, particularly if you get like six people doing that. So I don't know how one wants to deal with that, but some kinds of sports that people may play may get kind of noisy. I don't have children at home anymore, so it's not. I'm not an expert anymore.
Can you give us a little more information? Because I think this really got brought up as a result of the selectmen's meeting. Like, did they give any examples or anything like that?
If I can tag in real quick, this is what it is right now. Exterior noise standards is defining an unreasonable disturbance beyond the property line that would disturb the peace. So it's in a direct, just something that specifically says kids or not an unreasonable disturbance beyond the property line that would disturb the peace and therefore
Okay.
go against the noise bylaw. So that's explaining it. And then if we can go with hands, it might be a little bit more reasonable. John, you had your hand up. Did you?
Yeah, if you think leaf blowers is a lightning rod, putting anything with kids, children, I'm like, somebody's going to comment on that, and it's, I don't think it's necessary.
I don't think it's
I don't
necessary
either.
either.
I don't
And I
either.
think even when the selectmen did review it, they said, well, do my kids make noise? Are my kids gonna get jammed up on this? And, I mean, unless it's disorderly conduct or a breach of the peace, I mean, I don't think anybody in their right mind is gonna go down there and do that. I don't think it's necessary. We need to articulate what a child is and the
Yeah.
age and, I don't think it's necessary. And they were fine with support. They didn't tell us to, they didn't tell us to add anything about children.
And I don't recall seeing this in other people's bylaws either.
Right.
Leah, I've seen it in some other ones. I can't think of which ones I saw it in, but the kids were explicitly called out as an exemption. I forget what it was. It's been
Is
a
it
while now.
daycares?
No,
Daycare?
it wasn't daycare. It was just like
Okay,
kids
it wasn't
playing in the
that.
backyard. It was just, the general activity of children. But I don't know if it's, I don't know what it was written as or what it would be. I just know that I've seen it someplace. It was called out as a specific point of us to discuss. We discussed it. We don't have to include it. We do have one hand up in the audience though that would like to speak.
Go ahead. I can't see the
Jennifer.
Hey, this is Jennifer Cunningham. How are you guys?
Hello.
Hey,
How are you?
You know
happy
what?
Friday.
Happy Friday. God love you doing this on a Friday night. I left the room for a minute. My computer died because it was not plugged in and you were just doing the leaf blowers. And I know on the original language, I don't have it in front of me, but can we scroll up to the page? What did you decide in terms of, I know Lisa just said wanted to do just one leaf blower and everybody squashed it and wanted two. Is there any, is
The
there?
leaf blower
language-
section has been deleted.
I'm sorry?
The leaf blower section has been deleted.
Really?
Yes.
And that was by vote of this committee?
Yes.
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 And why is that? Why was it deleted?
Because of a vote.
Yeah, we voted on it and, you can play, the meeting is recorded. You can play that back.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll recap real quick. What happened was it had one leaf blower. We discussed that the select board gave us feedback already, and that this would be a contentious issue. So we could not come to an agreement of a way that we think that it wouldn't be in that way. And then the meeting has the rest of the details on that.
so it's going to come down to it's under the umbrella of contracted work. Is that
Yes.
where it
yes.
falls under?
Yes,
Contracted work, and then that's between what hours and what hours?
that is up here. It has different days of the week. So
Okay, contract, okay, yeah, I did read that. I was following that earlier.
All right.
And was that, is 7 on weekdays and 8, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jennifer, you only get really relief based on your description to us on Sundays and holidays.
It's Saturday evening.
Yeah.
And I did want to ask one more question before before you move on. How many more meetings are there going to be in terms of this draft and prior to going to town meeting?
it goes to advisory next week. So it's going to be a joint meeting on Wednesday.
Okay,
And then I'm not sure if it goes before the select board again, but they will get a draft and I'm sure it'll be on their agenda at some point.
okay, okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Are we pretty good now?
I had a quick question. What if we took the yelling, shooting, shouting and whistling out of prohibited activities and put it in, no, would that make sense? Exempted? even though we have a time frame on it.
Yeah.
And with that kind of, I just thought that covered kids.
How
Because they're
about,
outside, they're yelling, because it's not gonna be anything. I mean, I can't imagine that they're gonna be
But
banging
if-
It's
stuff.
between 11 PM and 7 AM.
Right,
Yeah.
so,
They shouldn't be making noise then either.
exactly. Well, no, I'm just saying that I'm assuming that what's there in prohibited activities covers kids,
If
right?
it doesn't, as far as I know, and I'm not the lawyer to do this, it doesn't just because it's prohibited between those hours doesn't mean it's allowed during the hours that it's not written as prohibited. It's just in that section saying that it's specifically prohibited in that space.
I can't imagine that it's gonna come up. I mean, we know that neighbor noise wasn't high on the survey either.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean,
It's being an issue.
so if we don't feel children needs to be here, I make a motion to remove children from the exempted activity section since they're already covered under the by the discretion of the officer in the scope, because they're not considered an unreasonable disturbance.
Right.
I can second that. You want to take a vote on it? We'll, all
It's been seconded, so now we're voting on it.
right, let's see, children, I'm losing. I'm gonna go from the bottom up this time, mix it up. So I'm gonna say, take it out, which would be yes. Cindy, take it out.
yes,
Lee, take it out.
Yes,
John, take it out.
Yes.
Lisa, take it out.
Yes.
And Tim, take it out.
No.
Okay, it's out.
Okay, so that was the one big item here. Does anybody have anything else in the exemption section? Okay, so violations and penalties. This section is.
wait. What, is 76, 77, 78, is that supposed to, did something move and that was supposed to go with it? Wasn't that the thing about the oh,
Observability, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
This is
That's
not
later.
severability. This was in another thing. And it was a legal thing that we weren't clear about at that point in
Oh,
time.
right.
So
Okay,
any
got it.
activity to the extent the regulation thereof is preempted by state or federal laws or regulation. So it's saying that anything exempted by the state is exempted here. And it was something we weren't sure if it had to remain in and waiting on legal review.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. So section 6, penalties and violations, we added a verbal warning for the first offense. Just move these up to second, had to add a third and a fourth because of the way it is. So third offense, and then for each succeeding offense of the first offense is the way this is written. So if you've gone through this list and you've gotten your third offense at 179 days, it's still going back to the original date, the way that we wrote this.
There was a concern on line 81 for the word convicted, and I think it should be stated, if found responsible,
Oh, yeah.
because convicted was considered too harsh. And I believe if it's a civil infraction, you're not convicted of a civil infraction. They deem you responsible or not responsible.
Any person who violates a provision.
Like a speeding ticket, you're not found guilty, you're found responsible on a speeding ticket. And it's a different level of evidentiary procedure. It's 51%, where a criminal matter is ultimately is beyond a reasonable doubt. Does that make any sense?
I don't know if this is correct for each succeeding offense within 180 days. Is each successive offense? It's just because it's after the third now. So I don't know what the words are that mean after the third. each offense after the third within 180 days of the.
They do talk about succession, like fourth offense, OUI.
Well,
So maybe this is successive offense of the third within 100 days. I mean, that's not.
no, because it successive, it has to be after the third. It has to succeed something, and that's the only thing for it to, you've already said it wouldn't succeed the verbal or the first or the second or the third. So I think it's fine the way it was grammatically.
So each succeeding offense or each successive offense? Probably this one, right?
I think it's succeeding.
Okay.
I wanted to kind of emulate the, I can't pull it up right now, but I think Southborough was one of the first ones to have a marijuana bylaw when it was illegal. Whatever language was in that.
The place I'm getting confused of it with the timings. Let's say January 1st is your first offense, and February 1st. So that's your verbal warning. Then February 1st, you do it again. That's your second offense and the $50 fine. And March 1st, you do it again, and now that's your third offense, and that's still within 180 days. And then April 1st, you do it again, and it is, and you keep doing this each month. But once you get to July 1st, you're now no longer within 180 days of the first offense. So therefore, do you go back to a verbal warning?
So
Yeah,
would it be of third offense? Should this just be a third offense?
Well, I say, you're always going to get back to some conceptually what you'd like to, what we were after, and that I don't think we're expressing the way we've done it, is that if you are a serial offender who keeps offending, that you're going to pay a price with escalation of the fine. On the other hand, if you get good, say you go now, instead of 1 month without being an offender, you go 9 months. Then what we're trying to say is that if it's been 9 months since the last time you were found responsible, then you get to go back to a verbal warning. But if it's less than 6 months since the last time, I think that's the concept we were really after, because otherwise it's going to keep resetting after every 6 months. You get to start back at square one.
So it would be third offense. So warning. This second offense is referring to the warning. Third offense is referring to the second offense.
right.
And then this one's referring to the third offense. So I think by now you do reset. If
you know what? If you, on line 85, if you change third offense to the preceding offense, that'll fix it. Because that means that they have to go 180 days, 181 days in order to get reset.
Yep.
I think that solves the problem I was.
So should this be proceeding, or is this still okay?
No, just on the last one, on the $300 one.
I mean, you could use proceeding because it would have the same effect. It doesn't matter.
Quick question. So the way it was originally written, we had given the officer the discretion for warning. So I did like that there was a penalty for each of the offenses with the discretion on the officer. So if an officer shows up and somebody's being let's say rude, I'd want the officer to issue the fine. But if somebody's reasonable and so forth, warning. So I'd want to reinforce that, give more power to the officer who's showing up and really have that ability to issue the fine versus just a warning.
I think what Tim's highlighted gives the enforcement official all of that discretion.
But it says a verbal warning for the first offense.
And
Yeah,
it's definitive that the first time you get a verbal warning. But then for any of the other times, for each time the officer comes out there, he has the option to issue a warning instead of a fine.
No, he's saying the other way.
I'm saying that if the first warning, the first offense, I'd want the officer to have the power that if somebody's being rude and not compliant, that the officer actually issues the fine. Because right now we're just giving more, we're taking one tool away from the officer when he shows up for the first offense.
So this is
Yeah.
from the feedback we got at the select board to add a warning at the beginnings as an educational opportunity for it passing, if I remember what they were saying, as showing some level of escalation. So, I mean, I could go either way with it on that, but I think that was the feedback I responded to when I brought it back to us to consider. Cindy has her hand up.
Go ahead, Cindy. Sorry, I was looking at the.
So Pete, if somebody's mouthing off to an officer, I don't
That
they
never
have,
happens.
huh?
That never happens.
Only if you're a moron, I guess. First break the law and then start mouthing off about it. But do you think that this takes away the option of the officer to deal with it?
I mean, I don't think a $50 fine is going to make the difference. I think if somebody's really out of control, they're probably going to get, arrested for something else, disorderly conduct or disturbing the peace or whatever. I think for the average thing, like, oh, the radio's too loud, or the party's a little, crazy, turn it down. I think that's probably going to be the standard procedure that 99% of the time what you're going to do. And if I come back, I can give you A, B, C, and D. I think that's probably going to be the fair. I don't know that if somebody's in violation, that even a $50 fine is going to make a difference if they're heated enough. So, and then that was brought out too with some of the people around here. It was I think it was in the selectmen's meeting was saying that, or one of the forums was saying, geez, well, that money doesn't really make a lot of difference to a lot of people around here, but.
Although they started getting a $300 fine every day.
Right. Well, yeah, that would add up.
Yep. And just to note, succeeding is the right word. Succeeding and successive mean different things.
I think this section, the review from the lawyer might maybe shed some light on it. How, I think he's going to get the idea of what we really mean. I mean, the officer could say, look, I gave him a warning and he didn't take it, so here's your fine. Be a little bit creative.
Okay, so if we're okay with the way it's written as of now, with 180 days instead of 365, that's the feedback we were kind of given so far, so we responded to it. If we're okay with it, I say we move on.
Yep, I'm fine with that too, yeah.
Okay, so enforcement. I added, and it's not in red, so I'll put it in red right now. I added this section as another comment we were given.
Just as a point of order, I don't know how much we got, but it's now 9:06. We've been at it for 2 hours. Generally, we've been taking breaks every 2 hours. So I think we should take a 5-minute break. Anybody?
I would like to just get through it, to be honest.
Yeah, let's just finish.
Okay, finish it is.
Okay. So this section didn't change at all except one thing. So unless people have other things that change, the only thing I added was all appeals will be handled by the select board. The select board shall establish appropriate procedures for the appeals process, including such hearings as the select board deems appropriate.
So,
I don't know how else we'd write this, so that was my stab at it.
so this is a bylaw that goes to the courthouse. And you have a hearing in front of the clerk magistrate, and you can appeal that hearing to the judge. So there's no need to have it, you know, I know somebody said there should be an appeal process, and there is at the courthouse. It's a civil infraction at the courthouse, so we don't need to involve the selectmen. The selectmen aren't going to hold court on violations of the noise bylaw.
Peter, I thought this was related to if somebody wanted an exemption or a permit
Yeah.
and so forth.
I think that's in
not-
number 4,
Right.
isn't it?
Oh,
If somebody was talking about the appeal process, and I don't know how familiar they were with the criminal the civil process that's already in place here. I don't think 5 is necessary at all.
And
I
the
know that
select
some
board
noise
probably
bylaws-
already has their procedures.
So without going to the other one, since this is the select board one, since I take the exemptions, should there be? I mean, whether or not there is another process in place, I don't know about that process. Should there be a process though to keep this local in town to handle something? And I got an email. Andrew just forwarded me something. He has his hand up, so he might want to talk about what he just sent me. But there's
can you just scroll so we can see the top of this page? I don't know where this is falling under.
oh, sorry, I'll pull it up here in a second.
Like show up like 80.
Is it under enforcement? It's under enforcement, right?
It's under
It's under enforcement, yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the one. Andrew has his hand up, so he wants to speak to this.
I just saw that one. There's one in Ashland's noise bylaw
Yeah,
that I thought was
Ashland's-
pretty good,
I was just looking
And
at it.
and it references Mass General Law 4021D, which I guess allows, you know, the city or town to, and Peter, you might know this better than me, non-criminal disposition of violations of any ordinance or bylaw or any rule for any municipal officer, board, or department, the violation of which subject to specific penalty. And there's a bunch of other language in there. But I think it makes sense to have people, I mean, we have the same thing with if you get a fine for going to the transfer station without a sticker, you can appeal it to the Board of Selectmen, et cetera. I think it makes sense. So some towns just have this as a separate section under enforcement. They just have appeals. And this is what's in Ashland's section.
I mean, do we want to burden them with that additional, additional work? I mean, if there's something that can be found that states that if you want to appeal this, at Westboro, or there's got to be a process out there that makes sense. Why would we want to put more work on the BOS? I don't think they want that.
I would agree, but I don't think they want to be hearing, that kind of thing that, I mean, the courts deal with it on a regular basis. That's, they're familiar with it. They're lawyers. They're all there, I would think that, if you involve the selectmen, then now you're dealing with the liability and, so on and so forth, where if you just send it to the magistrate, they're supposed to be impartial and sovereign, so to speak. But I mean, I'm comfortable either way. I just didn't think it was necessary. I was going to try and look up, what happens at the transfer station, but I can't seem to find it.
I can tell you.
Do they, is that something that people get tickets and do they have to pay it through if they don't pay it to the town and then it turns criminal? Is that how they have it set up?
I know that there's a process that they can appeal it, but they appeal it to the DPW, the head of the DPW. And basically what happens is somebody says that they're going to appeal it and they pull up the stuff from the cameras and say, we have you on tape. Do you still want to appeal it? And they go away. But my question is, so like parking tickets and speeding tickets and things like that are usually like in violation of like, well, I guess speeding tickets would be in violation of state laws.
Correct.
I mean, bottom line, my question is, if something like this actually gets as far as the court, does the court really consider this like to be a thing?
Yeah, I mean, they take up what is sent to them. I mean, they do, people that, when I was in charge of animal control, I had to supervise them. People were complaining about the licensing. So we had an afternoon where we would deal with people that would refuse to license their dogs.
Okay, and
You know, they do all kinds of
the
municipal.
court will
activities like
uphold
that.
the local bylaws.
Yeah, and
Okay.
people would have to come in and pay either $25 or show the license, or get, you know, we'd have somebody from the Board of Health that gave the licenses out. It was a big coordinated effort for a bunch of nonsense, but it did occur.
So I guess the question is, do we want to put this section in?
I think that we have to find out from the lawyer. I think the lawyer, the town lawyer, if he wants it in, we'll put it in.
Well, okay, so for the sake of for the sake of that, I think we should, I'm gonna make a motion so that way it's clear that the lawyer has something to respond to. And then we can take it down if need be, but I'm gonna make a motion that we take what I have up on my screen now, which is from the Ashland bylaw, and apply this to our bylaw in the appeal section, as we have here.
Can you put it in teal?
Yeah, it'll be in teal, but I
Okay.
propose that we include it
Yep.
as part of it, and that's my motion.
Sure, I'll second that. Gonna run out of paper here. Appeal.
Hey, Lee, thank you for switching scribe duties.
Yeah, God. How come I always get the worst ones?
So a yes is putting that Ashland sentence in and teal. I'll go from the bottom. Peter is a yes. Cindy,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yeah,
and Tim.
Yes,
Okay.
6-0.
I'll fix it after.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can change the font and all that.
Yeah, I'll do that. That'll be my own homework exercise.
Yeah.
So ignore the numbering.
Yep.
Okay, so then that leaves us with the rest of what we had here. I don't think we need to keep this in yellow. It's in, or I mean teal. It's been in there for the other, but I think that it's probably not necessary at this point, unless you guys feel we keep it in teal and just keep moving forward. I just want to keep getting towards the finish line.
I think it's just confusing to have it in there.
We left it for the lawyer, so I mean, it's
Right.
kind of like a lawyer review thing.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't hurt then. It's in teal, so.
Okay, so we'll leave it like that, and then the rest of this is good, and we'll go with the 300 feet.
So Tim, I would suggest taking out the Board of Health and the Board of Health from the police department and Board of Health. Take the Board of Health out. Right? We talked with Heather, and she's not going to enforce it, right? It would just be the police department.
Okay, so Heather, do you have anything to add to that? Is it necessary to have you listed, the Board of Health listed as a enforcement agency in this? Since it's already listed in that informational section, which is kind of a separate entity?
Yeah, I think that's okay to take out from that sentence.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it says it's this bylaw, not like the bylaw referred to, right?
Right. It's not like all the other code of mass regulations and everything else that they deal with, so, yep.
Okay. So okay, just to keep in the same vein so we can keep moving. I propose, I make a motion to take out Board of Health and keep it as just the police department will be charged with the enforcement of the provision of this bylaw.
Okay. So yes is removed.
We
I'm
need
gonna
a
be-
second. Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
This is on line 93.
In 93. So remove Board of Health.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yep.
Heather, would there be another instance of sound that you might have to regulate in town?
Well, I think we could determine something to be sort of a immediate threat to health. I don't know that that's necessarily within the bylaw, but we have authority kind of in that area as well, if something is deemed sort of an immediate nuisance and threat.
On their own,
So
they
it's
have
a
the
matter-
authority, yeah.
Yeah,
So it might be a matter of, does the police know when to report it to you?
yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about that,
Okay,
the
so,
police reporting
I
to
don't
us.
know,
No.
right, or maybe it's something that they haven't faced before and,
Yeah, no, that I'm not worried about.
Okay,
But, right,
right.
we have sort of our own enforcement sort of on a more of a kind of, there's one that's sort of that immediate threat. I think of it like there's a one that's immediate threat to health. You know, if there's something really a big nuisance, or there's this more chronic one that we're looking at with the kind of under the formerly known as the business and industrial section.
Okay,
Okay, so my motion stands then with Cindy's second.
yes.
Okay, so
So I'm gonna be a yes for taking it out. Cindy,
Yes, take it out.
Lee,
Yes,
John,
Yes.
Lisa,
yeah.
and Tim.
yes. Okay, so if I take this out by vote, then that means we don't need to worry about the Board of Health and compliance piece. So that can, as a
That goes
default.
out. Right.
Where did it just go? Whoops, what did I just do?
Previous page.
Oh, there it is. It just bumped up to the next page. Okay, so there it is. I just removed the teal. Police department shall be charged with the enforcement of the provisions of this bylaw.
Yep,
We kept these other pieces about the town departments have to adhere to it. And then temporary exceptions to this bylaw handled by the select board. This was the notification. 300 feet is what's written here. Just to get it on a yellow, do we have any objections to taking this on a yellow? 300 feet.
Nope.
Seeing none, taking it out. Okay, so then I'll take care of the formatting. We don't actually have 5 through 10, it's only 5 for appeals. So moving on to definitions. We'll stick with what's on the page first, and then we can move to the 2 that I was sent for plainly audible as we get lower. So business and industrial noise is still specifically mentioned, and that ties into the activity on here because we have business industrial noise listed here, so it ties together. So I think that still makes sense. Contractors is called out, and enforcement official. So now this is where we can decide if Board of Health still fits. Do we need Board of Health employee as an enforcement official? I don't think it hurts anything, but I don't know if it's necessary at this point.
I think if you're gonna be consistent, you gotta,
Remove
if you're
it.
not gonna have it in the other area, you shouldn't have it there. Because you just said above that the police department is gonna be
Hmm.
the one enforcing it.
yep.
Okay.
You're kind of contradicting yourself if you take it out of one and not the other, correct? Didn't we just do that?
So here's Heather back.
Well, I've got to then look, there's sort of a standard definition for it. And I was seeing, you know, at the time of someone reading this, they're going to call police, like that's going to be like the call. But somewhere in the MGL, there's something about police, Board of Health, or any other town official, or, you know, there's sort of a more general broad.
There was fire.
Fires in there too. Yeah, I mean, that's just sort of a broad standard that's in these things. But if we want to do it like enforcement official, I think of if you, in that other section, like you're going to call the police. But kind of to investigate it on kind of a more investigative nature, it can be, there's a standard definition for this in Massachusetts.
Cindy?
Have we referred to an enforcement official anywhere else?
I think we have, yeah, up here, enforcement official. is in the-
Okay,
is in the bylaw.
I just couldn't remember, right, when we just looked at it. Okay,
Yeah, so I think that's the main spot, was the violations. So essentially, the Board of Health could issue a violation is what we're allowing the definition to say. I don't know if I have a problem with that necessarily, but because it says who to call, because it says who's responsible for enforcing it, but it also allows that extra opportunity here. I don't see how that's bad, because the Board of Health has purview over pieces of noise.
I'd leave it.
Yeah, I don't think it hurt. Do you want to put it in teal?
We can. I don't know if we need to.
I wouldn't.
I'm fine with it too. You know, whatever.
Just
That's
leave it.
fine.
it's fine.
Andrew, I think Andrew came off mute. He might have something. to
Yeah,
add.
I think it's confusing, right? Especially because the enforcement official is listed at the person that's at the property, right? So you're gonna make a call. So even though it says, you know, in the enforcement, it's enforced by the police department, to have the official as Board of Health, it's like, oh, so I can call the Board of Health too, because that's the person that's gonna show up on my property. Right? So I think I think it was in there because of the Board of Health rules and regulations and the separate issue where they would handle it.
Right.
I would take it out just because I think it's confusing.
I think, yeah, if we put additional things that we were going to add to the, you know, if we were going to do that 6 dB thing that and all that with the industrial noise, then obviously they'd have to be involved in it. Well, we're not doing that. I don't think they need to be there.
Okay. I mean, I'm okay either way. I don't think I don't know enough about if it has to be here or not. So if we have agreement,
Yeah,
to take it,
I mean, I think people can call the Board of Health about noise complaints, certainly about industrial.
Yeah.
And yes, we send people out there too.
Yeah, but
you-
and they can, but not on this bylaw.
Gotcha.
Oh, they certainly can, but not on this bylaw. They are an enforcement official, but not on this bylaw.
Yeah, the same like you could call the building inspector for construction noise.
Right.
okay. So I make a motion to remove Board of Health employees.
Wait. So, part of the bylaw states that under enforcement, that all town departments and agencies shall comply with federal, state, and local law and regulations and provisions and intent of this bylaw, respecting the control and abatement of noise to the same extent that any person is subject to such laws and regulations. So I think it makes sense to keep the Board of Health in there, but maybe that points to, I don't know if that obviously could point to the Board of Health as well as pointing to the building department.
But that they
You're
have
talking-
to follow rules and regulations.
Right.
They're citizens of this country, right? And they're employees of the town and they live in the Commonwealth. Like, that's just reiterating a fact that's law and standard, right? It's
Right,
has nothing to do with this bylaw.
right.
It's just reinforcing it and saying, yeah, and make sure you know that you have to do the things that you have to do.
Right,
So
right.
for,
There would be enforcement officials for those regulations, but not for anything that's in this bylaw. There's nothing in this
What
bylaw that
regulation?
directs the Board of Health to do anything. It just says that there's laws out there that already tell the Board of Health what to do. We've cited them, but there's nothing else in this bylaw that tells the Board of Health to do anything.
Right.
But these are standards that we want also to be held up by the town departments. Because this
That's
is going
true.
to be a local bylaw.
And
And
they
the
are,
intent-
Right.
Yeah, the bylaw.
but they're not going to get fined underneath the bylaw. They're going to get
Right.
fined underneath those other rules and regulations, whether it be DEP or a violation of a building and permit or a violation of another town code, but not under the noise bylaw.
Right.
Okay.
so my suggestion at the moment, unless the committee decides to go different, is to leave this in teal. Let the lawyer review it, but I don't think it needs to be in there. So almost maybe even do a cross through of this as the intention is to remove it. That's what I think we're coalescing on. So.
I mean, yeah. I
so
can't
the-
see any, when you write a ticket, you're gonna be outlining what section you violated. The Board of Health isn't gonna have any, there's no sections here that the Board of Health's gonna be able to enforce.
So are we okay with the intention is to remove it, let the lawyer confirm that we can
Yeah.
remove it, and then,
Yeah.
and then move forward?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you. Homeowners, unpaid work which generates noise. These are things that we need to look at too. This language has been brought up a couple of times from different people, include but not limited to. So I think it needs to just turn into IE renovation, property maintenance, landscaping.
Right.
IE is the correct way to include, or just list it.
Well, I think to include, but not limited to cover, I mean, IE is just redundant at that point.
Yeah, but I think we were advised include but not limited to means anything could technically be applied to that principle. So it doesn't actually apply appropriately because it becomes so broad. So we needed to refine it more is what we were told we needed to do by.
Can you just say, for an example, renovation, landscaping, property maintenance?
Well, that's what
Construction.
IE, that's what
That's
IE,
IE.
right?
Yeah,
Hey,
okay.
Tim, do we
So
even have
take out to
homeowners?
include, take out to include and say paid work which generates noise, i.e. renovation, landscaping, property maintenance, whatever the
Construction,
construction.
but doesn't that include like vehicles, deliveries of supplies, so on and so forth? Also demolition.
I mean, it includes a ton of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tim,
mean-
technically it should be EG and not IE because IE stands for that is.
I always go back and forth between IE, EG, and another one that I can't
Yeah,
remember.
just semantics, but just technically it should be EG.
Is it
that's
comma?
why I said, for example, I speak,
Yeah.
EG means, for example.
EG makes, for example, IE means that is.
Just for the record, because I have to write it a bunch more times, is this correct, comma, EG, colon?
Well, it's periods after E and after G.
Okay, thank you. And it's just that, right? There's no semi, no colon.
Right.
Okay,
And it just means for example, that's how it
Okay.
translates.
so we might need to put some more items into this list, I think, is what we're saying. Or are we okay?
no, construction, demolition. deliveries. I thought we had, was that part of construction maybe? I mean, I don't have that.
I don't think we have to articulate every single noise that a contractor makes.
Well, I think it includes, well, maybe we just have maybe it's under construction and stuff too, but
You know,
do we still have the construction
yeah,
definition
construction's
that I
there.
sent?
And don't forget hooting.
Yeah, it's in the bottom. What was that?
I just said to add hooting.
Yeah, the construction definition is still down here.
Okay, all the way at the bottom.
Can you go back up to where the deliveries? I just wanted to look at that again.
Well, hold on, I was just pulling something here for Lisa. Lisa, I'm just gonna copy this whole thing and then we'll
Yeah,
condense it.
And Tim, just most of the bylaws have definitions, usually like right after the purpose. So it's usually right at the top of the definition. So you know the definition before you read the bylaw. But
We
That's what I would
put it
suggest
down
this.
here to try to make it seem shorter. As an attempt. So I don't know if it's okay that way, but
That is right. The definition should be first.
yeah.
okay. So this is, I'm gonna put this in yellow so we can pull from here.
I mean, I think that should stay. I mean,
Yeah.
Just
That
keep
looks
all
all
this,
good.
I think that should be a definition.
like construction should be a definition, or this should be added to contractors.
I think it
No,
should be
can
just
make construction its own definition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it should be its own definition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And contractors can do construction.
So then you don't need to say,
But there's contractors that can just come in and do demolition too, so.
Right.
You know, it's part of, and maybe we need to include maybe it should be construction and demolition work. I don't know.
I mean, I think you're covered. Paid work which generates noise. You just want to give a couple examples. You don't need to list, a bunch.
Looks good enough to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So aside from in the definition, do we reference leaf blowers anywhere right now?
Nope.
No, we don't.
And I don't think we
You don't need a
reference homeowners.
definition of a leaf blower if we don't reference it.
True.
on the construction, do you need the last line? Because it's any noise, right? So I think you can just take out the construction noise shall be noise generated, because it's, and the one above, it's paid work which generates noise.
Yeah.
Mm.
Kind of
Correct.
redundant.
Yep.
Tim, can you look for homeowners in the document? I think we've eliminated it.
I think.
No,
we
we put
added
it back in.
We added
didn't
it
we?
back.
We added it back,
Can
yeah.
we put that-
Oh, right.
Can we put that last line back into construction? Construction noise shall be that noise generated.
Yeah, it's unnecessary.
All activities associated with construction.
I mean, if we wanted any piece of that, we could be manual or mechanical activities associated with construction.
So that could be like nail guns. That could be like nail guns, saws,
But it wouldn't,
jackhammers.
But it wouldn't count for somebody walking on the property picking up trash.
or yelling or hooting.
I mean, if the piece to keep would be this, and it would just get added into the commas up here. If we wanted to keep a piece of it and not make it redundant.
I think it's actually stronger without that sentence.
Manual or
Is
mechanical.
this highlighted piece strongly? No.
Well, I think that may be what's weakening it. Because there may be other things besides manual or mechanical activities
Right.
that are assessed. So that's what,
Okay, so get rid of.
Yeah, I don't think you need it.
Is it creating a loophole?
It could be.
well, by leaving it in, I think I could,
Well, I'm thinking that generated by manual or mechanical activities, I think.
doesn't cover everything.
So filling a manual activity is filling a dumpster with debris. So I'm just, thinking of,
Do we have to look at that, including but not limited to business, and do examples again? There you go.
I think you should keep it.
I mean, I was hoping to apply the same
Bans
thing.
it.
For example, delivery pickup. It says for example, which is similar, but it's not the same wording.
Yeah, so without that sentence, it's any site or building preparation, period.
Yeah.
And then here are some examples. Bang, 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 bang.
But those aren't examples if you read it the right way, because then it goes into including the demolition and then the private streets. So I think you need to take it back to what it was.
Yeah,
But including but not limited to, by definition, then it's anything for building preparation, right? It could be having a surveyor come to the property to survey, or it
Yeah.
could be somebody just
They're not
walking the
gonna-
property, or it could be, somebody striping it with paint, right?
But
I think
if they're loud.
But
That
again,
doesn't say that.
then
No,
there's no point in
It's,
that, right?
this is a definition of construction. It's not a definition of noise.
yeah, so I guess what you're saying is all right, we define construction, surveyor comes, he doesn't make any noise. But then you go up to paid work, which generates noise, so he would be eliminated because he's a contractor. Well, he's a contractor, he's not like, where do we use construction in the document?
Construction permits.
And actually, under contractors, it shouldn't say paid work, which generates noise, would be the parallel for it. It would just be paid work, for example.
No.
Mm-mm.
Paid work, a painter could be paid work, and he's not making any noise.
They're saying, okay, so contractors for the purpose of this bylaw. Okay,
Right.
okay. I
So
got
we're
it.
defining construction. Where are we defining, what area are we defining that from?
And
And
then one,
generates, the residential and new construction and all of that.
Yeah.
And any construction. It could be,
But isn't construction paid work?
it's paid work.
Unless you build the house
So
yourself.
that could be anything. Right, which I'm agreeing with. So any paid work is in fact a construction.
So I think the reason why we wanted to define construction is because we had the building permits in there.
Yep.
We have the construction permits there.
Mhm.
at one time, didn't we talk about permitted work?
We did call it that at one point.
Yeah, we did, but then we said that mowing your yard isn't a permanent activity, so then we have to pivot our direction.
No, but I mean, for construction, it might work.
Any
We're
permanent
trying to
work.
follow.
Well,
mean,
we put the two kinds of permits in earlier this evening that we were
True.
concerned with because there were a lot more kinds of permits.
Yep.
So I guess generally what you do is, you know, you have the scope and you have your definitions. Now you're going to read the bylaw and you need to know what those things are. Where in the bylaw are we talking about construction? We talk about permits.
They're construction permits.
That's defined by the building department and what a construction permit is. It has nothing to do with this.
Can we just go up and look at that section where we added the,
So right here.
Construction permit is what it is. It's not
that's
construction.
true.
And the other one is construction
But it's
permit.
construction, it's the construction work that makes the noise.
We already talked about work that generates noise. Paid work.
That's
Right, and
a
so
line.
but we still need to define what construction is. And it could be
We're not
construction
using that
and
word.
demolition.
We're not using the word construction in our document. We're
It's right
using the word
there.
residential new
Twice.
construction permit.
Construction is an adjective modifying permit as opposed to being the noun itself. I think that's the linguistic distinction we're making.
No, I would disagree with that. It's a residential new construction permit is something. It is a noun in of itself.
It's any work. It's the work of that construction.
It's the work of it's any work that
The
generates
construction that the permit's
noise.
allowing. It's construction that the permit is allowing.
It's work that the permit's allowing.
It's construction work.
It doesn't say that.
Any
It's
work.
any work. It's not
Yeah.
construction work. It's any work.
Under the permits, right?
I don't think you need the word construction defined at all. It's any work.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
if this
you
is the
need to
only
have
place-
that. You need to have that in there. Tim, what did I originally send you?
I think it's
It
that.
was noise related to construction, right?
We
It
already
was
have
something
it,
like
any
that.
noise.
I mean, this is copy and pasted in here.
Okay, I'll look it up again.
We already I mean, it's already covered. Why would you make it more narrow?
You still need to define construction. And and what's included under it.
No, I'm going to agree with Pete. If the only place we use the word construction, other than that definition, these definitions, if the only place we use it is in that one place where we're talking about two specific kinds of permits, then we don't need to define construction because it's that new construction permit that is that's the object that we're talking about. We could have a definition here for a new construction permit, but we don't really need that because that's defined elsewhere in the town's bylaws. We don't really need to define the word construction.
I think we do. I think
Unless
we
the only other place it's used is in the line 123, where we use it as an example of something that generates noise. That would be the only reason why we would need to have a definition of construction. But then we would also need to put in for a definition for demolition, for deliveries, for landscaping.
Right.
Yeah,
we
we
would
probably
put
do.
in a definition of each of those things if we were going to be consistent.
So
Right.
Lisa, I guess my point is any work, the two words, any work being paid covers construction, painting, demolition, deliveries, it covers it all. It's any, it covers it all.
But people
By
are going to
saying-
want that defined. Don't you think they want that defined?
Any work.
Because otherwise they're going to say, oh, well, I don't see that defined. That's not defined here. So
Are you getting-
that's
are you
not
getting
part.
paid?
It's all work.
It's all work.
Work
Are you
being
getting
done.
paid? That's the question. Are you getting paid?
Don't you
Yes.
think
Are
more
you
is
making noise?
better?
Yes. You can't stop.
Okay. It doesn't, you know what? It really doesn't.
So,
Here we go
Peter,
with the hissy fit.
yeah, construction's an adjective. Do we need to define work? I hate to say that question, but because this is all work. So
This is
Just-
why I wanted to take a break at 9 o'clock.
I know. Because you could have a definition for work, but then never mind. Lee's right.
I mean, we can come up with definitions on every word in here. We're trying to make the thing simple.
you
Yeah.
go down a slippery slope as soon as you open that door.
Any work, I mean,
So the reason you put a definition in is because somebody might confuse it with something else. That's why, for example, we might want to put a definition of what plainly audible means. If the only place we're really talking about construction is inside of that, phrase where it's a construction permit of one kind or the other, there's no reason to open that door because there's no confusion. It is what it is, and there's no confusion.
I would agree, but
Okay,
I
don't-
agree.
can we,
So why don't we just take a vote on it? Because I
There we
think
go.
that's the only way we're going to settle it.
Lisa's not here.
right.
Oh, we should wait for her to come back. What else were you going to talk about while we're waiting for her to come back?
I mean, we have some more things here. How many other, okay, let's start here and go in a certain kind of direction. Are there words that we don't have in the definition section that we need to add to the definition section? Are we missing? I mean, before we talk about the rest of what they are, we have legal holiday. We have plainly
Well,
audible, quiet hour.
Didn't we have some new title for the holiday? What was it? There was something that somebody brought up earlier about
It was a
holidays.
sound holiday.
I would just change it to
Noise
like
holiday.
town noise holiday or something, because like Christmas Eve, for instance, is not a legal holiday, but I
Yeah,
think it probably
okay.
should be a noise holiday. And then just change every reference to legal holiday to town noise holiday or whatever you guys want to call it.
Let's just call it a noise holiday. Because the
Okay.
whole thing has to do with the town.
I don't understand why we're calling it a noise holiday. These are days that are considered holidays, that are federal holidays, and they're calendar holidays. You don't see noise holidays on a calendar.
But Christmas Eve is not a federal or state
Yeah,
holiday.
and that I agree.
So
And I think there's other things in there that are missing. Here's the list of federal holidays observed in 2022. It includes New Year's Day, Martin Luther King, Washington's birthday, Memorial Day, Juneteenth, Independence Day, Labor Day, Columbus Day, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving Day, and Christmas Day. There's 11 holidays, federal holidays. The only one that would be missing that would be a Massachusetts holiday would be Patriots Day.
Lisa, from that list you just read, because you're looking at them, are there any days that would be, somebody mentioned the word before, like work holidays, days that are just typically associated with people physically do work on those days?
Not that I know of. I mean, I know that I've got Juneteenth off this year. I had Martin Luther King, I had Washington's birthday, I've had Memorial Day. The only one that I know of is Veterans Day, but it's a federal holiday. Some people get it, some people don't. If you're at home, you probably want peace and quiet.
Yeah. At my hospital, we didn't get Martin Luther King's Day off. At Kearney, they got Martin Luther King's Day off, but not Patriots Day, but we got Patriots Day off because it was hard to get to the hospital if, because the route ran near us. So not everybody gets every holiday off. And I think we also didn't get Columbus Day off.
But I
Go ahead,
think that
Cindy, you
these
have your
days
hand
is days for peace and quiet.
But go ahead, Cindy. You have your hand up or do you not?
Yes, I do. And it's sort of what Lee just said is not all industries get all holidays off. Juneteenth, Columbus Day, or whatever you're going to call it these days, and Veterans Days are in the mowing and fall cleanup, especially the fall cleanup seasons. And construction companies work on those days, landscapers work on those days, roofers work on those days. Typically, people providing manual or service type work on those days. So you're taking like, you know, a very professional group of people or people who work for the state or towns and saying, okay, so everybody else has to stop. Those are days that are integral to some businesses' business. I mean, that some industries' business.
I mean, we also got President's Day off, which isn't on this list.
That would be Washington's birthday. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Is it not on there?
Not
Do
in
you
that.
want me to? I
Yeah,
can
this
send
is
you.
the list that was given to us during the forum.
When's President's Day fall? Is that a mowing?
February.
February
That's
20th.
not a mowing day.
It's a February, Monday in February.
Yeah, it's whatever the Monday is between Lincoln's birthday and Washington's birthday.
Yeah, it's
So
like
it's the
February.
Monday that occurs
Are we
between
okay?
the 12th and the 22nd.
Are we okay adding that day?
So I was the one that sent these in, right? I think the issue is there are certain holidays that people are still working. Landscapers still working, contractors still working. And I took this directly from Sharon's bylaw. This is what they define their legal holidays as for their noise bylaw. I think it's absurd that I can't do work on my house or have my contractor come mow my lawn on President's Day. I don't think it's a day at which, you know, everybody's out going to the car dealerships. The car dealerships can't make noise. There are certain days that are pretty sacred at which noise should not be made. And there are certain days that are kind of, yes, you have them off of work and a lot of other people work, right? And I'm not in favor of putting every state and federal holiday as a day that people can't do work. I vehemently oppose that.
Yeah.
But again, that's just my personal opinion.
Right.
But I think that would be a huge lightning rod when you say, hey, you can't do anything on your own property on this, you know, on Juneteenth or on this day, which, you know, is a holiday that just came out, right? You could do it every year prior to last year, but now you can't. But
I mean, I want to know why Christmas Eve Day is there. I mean, I mean,
that's what they had in Sharon, and I think, yeah, but I think that's a day where people would expect, you know, I would give up noise on President's Day to have quiet on Christmas Eve. I think it's what days do we don't want noise? There's certain holidays that are worth more than others.
Yeah, I'd rather have quiet on Digestion Day, which is the day after Thanksgiving.
So point just for clarity, what we're talking about right now is only defined in the contracted work noise standards section. So what we're applying this to, because of the way we rewrote the homeowner work noise standards, it applies to contractors that are getting paid. So just for the record, people would still be able to mow their yards. Homeowners would be able to mow their yards, be able to do things. It's paid contractors that make noise. So now that's what we're talking about specifically, because we did update the homeowner section. That's what this is applying to, is contractors.
And I would want to limit this list as much as possible because we already cut the contractors, holidays and Sundays. They're going to get squeezed because it rains during the week and they can't make it up on those days. So I want to keep this list as small as possible.
So there's 4 holidays, probably during mowing season. We have taken out the attempt to reduce noise during the summer. And this is one day. There are 4 days basically during the mowing season. Well, maybe, let's see, Memorial, Juneteenth, Independence, Labor Day, potentially Columbus Day, right? I think we should keep these in and give these days back to our residents for a time for peace and quiet.
Go ahead, Tim.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the days as written, except Christmas Eve day, the 24th, as the noise holidays, and then redefine the rest of the document accordingly.
Cindy has her hand up. Do you mind if she speaks first? Oh, I guess she doesn't have.
No,
her hand
I'll
up.
go ahead and second that motion.
Okay,
I'm not done. I think we should look at all of the holidays. I don't think we have them listed here for all of us to understand and look at. Would you like me to send you the list of full federal list of the list of federal holidays, Tim, so you can pull it up on the screen?
But Lisa, you're talking about Juneteenth. There's only a handful, right? That you want to consider adding.
I'm willing for us to pull it up on the screen and just see if there's any days that we missed.
It's not just for it's not just for it's for all contractors. It could be for construction. It could be
Right.
for people mowing lawns,
Right.
etc. So, it's not just for landscapers, because it's basically what we're talking about.
No,
Yeah.
no. It's not just landscapers.
yeah, you're both
No,
saying the
it's
same
not.
thing.
It's for all. And but
Right.
the conversation tends to focus on that.
You're both saying the same thing. You're both saying,
Well, let's bring up the list.
yeah, we'll bring up the list.
It's a little tall list. Hold on, guys. Got to resize my screen. There we go. I'm trying to see if I can put them side by side so we can look at them both. There we go.
So you want to just highlight the ones that we don't have? So New Year's Day, we have Martin Luther King.
I can't specifically highlight it. Sort of can. We don't have these two. MLK Day, President's Day. We don't currently have
Juneteenth.
Juneteenth, Columbus Day, or Veterans Day. And we added Christmas Eve.
And is this an old wording here? Is I know it's the right dates and the right year, but is Columbus Day actually Indigenous Peoples Day now?
I don't think it's been formally renamed.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just making sure I'm not missing another holiday. Okay, so
Lisa's talking about really 3 days, right? Juneteenth.
MLK.
Well, that's during the winter. There usually is not noise. I'm just trying to figure out
No,
how
but
to.
they're construction.
But
It's
they can be
construction.
So
construction.
goes on.
Right.
Yeah. So it could be construction activity, so MLK Day, President's Day, Juneteenth, Columbus Day, and Veterans Day.
Right.
So 5 days. I have to work all those, by the way.
Yeah, I think I work most of them too.
Yeah.
I
I've
always work
worked
those.
pretty much every day, every holiday over the years. And flight instructors work those days too.
I was gonna say, can I get the day after off?
Yeah. There was an interesting comment made by select person Healy about being woke regarding, some of the days we use. The fact that we pick Sunday, like that might not be, as acceptable to everyone. Like and be all inclusive. Like I wonder if this would fall along some of the same lines, but.
Yeah, my thoughts were maybe we should take Saturday and Sunday off from any contracted work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that
That's
one's.
a thought.
I'm not going to worry about being woke on this issue just
Oh,
because.
no, I'm just saying it was brought up. I think the trend is, I think companies are now giving more personal time and you can just take it when you want it, kind of thing.
Right. But for the purposes of doing a noise bylaw, we're going along with the work week and when most people are not working and
Right.
trying to maximize the quiet times on the times people are not working. More people work on Saturdays than work on Sundays.
Right. And I think we should use that same analogy with these holidays too. The ones that most people are working, we should not include.
I think it's a mix.
So my motion, I believe, is still active because it was seconded.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
That's
Yeah.
correct.
I don't feel a need to necessarily revise it on these days. I can't think of, I don't think of them as the same level as what's on the list minus Christmas Eve as I motioned.
I mean, I'm serious when I say, do we really need to have Christmas Eve day there? Because, you could just make just as good a case for taking the day after Thanksgiving off.
Right.
Yeah, which is why I motioned for it not to be included.
Right. In Tim's motion, it says all those days minus Christmas.
Oh, okay.
Christmas Eve.
Christmas
I'm
Eve.
sorry, Christmas Eve day. I'm sorry about that. All right, so the motion's been seconded. We've had a fair amount of discussion on it. So a yes answer is going to be those days minus Christmas Eve day. So I'm going to start at the bottom. I'm going to go yes, Peter, Cindy,
Yes.
Lisa.
So is this the last vote that we'll take on this? Because I'd like to make a motion after this to add the additional days that weren't included in this list.
I would say that would be in order for her to do that, but let's take care of this vote first.
Yeah.
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Cindy,
I voted, I think, yes.
I'm sorry. Tim,
Yes.
who am I missing?
Lee,
Lee.
and I'm a yes. And you were a
Okay.
yes, Peter?
Yes.
Okay.
I ran out of paper, so I'm new sheet.
Now, if Lisa wants to make her motion, now she would be in order.
So I'd like to make a motion to include the other federal holidays into this list. But my question is, why don't we just call it federal holidays and make it short and sweet?
Okay.
that maybe that's something to have a conversation about first. Why don't we just call it federal holidays and make it short and sweet?
Do we have a second on that?
It's just discussion.
It still needs a second.
I mean, as far as the discussion goes, I think the last motion was kind of what we were picking those days and as is. I think.
So just from a parliamentary point of view, the purpose of having a second is to determine whether more than one person wants to discuss the motion. If there is no second, then there's no reason to have a discussion. So so your question out right now is, was there a second?
So I'm just trying to be balanced. I'll second that motion. But I'm worried that now we're talking federal holidays. How about our Jewish friends, our neighbors? We haven't even talked about any of their holidays.
Right.
And how about all our, our Indian friends and so forth to have? So this is a slippery slope. And I'm just, again, I'm a minimalist. So the smaller list is what I usually prefer. And at least I understand what you're saying, but I'm working most of those holidays, so it doesn't help me at all.
But we're 6 people representing the town.
And my kids get Jewish holidays from the school. So, that's a growing population that we need to consider. So I just wanted to bring the discussions because I think you're making a good point.
I mean, that's not a facetious point. I mean, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur occur in September or the beginning of October, and that is, a prime time for making noise. For doing contracted work, I should say. And those are our holiest days of our year. But I think focusing it on being, the legal holidays that are recognized by the U.S. government keeps us from going down that pathway of having to recognize, everybody's religious celebration and having to determine whether each one of them is a major or a minor holiday. Because in Judaism, we have a lot of really minor holidays, some of which I've barely even heard of.
So how does private industry get everybody, like, how we were saying, some of us have to work some of the minor ones. How does private industry get away with that?
Well, in my opinion, some industries are service industries that are open, 24/7, 365, like hospitals. Other industries, like retail, they essentially do it by, if their workforce was unwilling to do it completely, they would, particularly in this economy, they would probably find a different job where they could not have to work that holiday. So I think it's really sort of supply and demand and what kind of an industry you're talking about. But that's how they get away with it. It's, what the necessity is.
So we're at the places I've worked, you get a core federal holidays off, and those are the ones that we voted on. Except for President's Day, we got that one off this year. The rest are what we call floating holidays. You pick which ones you want to do. And people pick other holidays, they pick odd days.
So are the ones in red the federal ones that we just did?
The ones here on the screen are all the federal holidays. The ones that we picked on here is a slightly trimmed down list of the federal holidays, minus the ones that, we deemed, call it what you'd like, working holidays, whatever it is, days that it's common for people to be still doing a job, a contractor, a paid work contractor, be doing a job. Most of them do not work on July 4th. Most of them do not work on on New Year's Day. So that was the point of my motion when I made it, was what days are people traditionally still working, not what days are still sacred. I mean, there's plenty of days that are still sacred here, and it wasn't that point. It was what days is it common to find people out and about doing activities and making, potential noise on those days, but it's still accepted?
I think we should take the vote.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, as a point of order, we have a motion, it's been seconded.
So what exactly are we
Lisa, let
voting
me-
on?
What's the
Let me
motion
just-
now?
The motion, as I understand it,
Is
is,
to do all
Have the-
13 holidays,
right, have the list that's,
11.
the
11
the
holidays.
one that says no subject, that list there, being the holidays that we outlined. A yes would be, we're gonna go with that list that says no subject.
So wait, hold on. So let me make sure I'm clear on let me make sure I'm clear. I'm not sure who, I know Lisa wanted to make the motion, but I don't think the motion was actually made unless I missed it.
No, she did. She made it.
Okay.
And I second it because I thought it was,
I thought that was discussion.
I
And then we
second the
got-
motion.
Now we've had the discussion.
For the record, let's vote. I second it.
So we made a motion, it was seconded, and it was discussed. I could call the question, but then we'd have to take a vote on taking the vote, so.
Okay, so that's fine. That's fine. So
Can I just make a quick reminder that if you're a
Yep.
homeowner, you're allowed to do work on
Right.
these days. It's the contracted work that
Right.
you get a little peace and quiet on these days.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the way that we would do this then, if Lisa, if I understand your motion, we would write out each one of these holidays.
No, I mean, we could, if people feel that that would alert people to what these holidays are. I think it would be easy just to say federal holidays.
I'm just saying if we did federal, it's just two different approaches. Federal means that if it changes, it's a living list. If we pick out the dates, then we have stringent dates that we approve today. So I'm just pointing that out. So I'm just making sure I understand the motion correctly. So whatever we do, I can make sure I type it out as we voted.
What do you think, Lisa? Do you want to do federal or do you want to do the list that you have?
My understanding of the motion was that that we would retitle noise holiday to become federal holidays.
Okay,
And then,
Oh, I see. This is a
what holiday?
definition, right?
and then it shall mean, and it will list all of these 11
Yes.
days.
I was thinking, yes, that's fine. Sorry, I'm not even thinking. I was thinking that we're naming it someplace else. Yes, we can list it as what the federal holidays are.
and in the
Thank you.
future, it could be more or less, depending on what the federal government says the holiday will be.
Right, we could become out of sync if they added another day.
All right, so are we good to vote now?
Yeah,
Okay, I'll vote no. Cindy,
No,
Lisa,
Yes.
John,
No,
Lee,
no,
and Tim.
No.
Okay. A lot of votes tonight.
yeah, I get all the votes.
Except for voting for a break at 9 o'clock. 10:15. Tim,
I thought we were closer.
Yeah,
you always think we're closer. You thought we were gonna have a 10-minute meeting last time, and at 10:30.
Can I noise holiday? Is it just the dates listed or does it shall mean the following public holidays?
it should just say the following days.
Yeah,
yep, that's enough. You don't even need the following days.
yeah, I don't think you do either. Noise, yeah, just,
Just list them.
Yeah,
right.
Okay,
People know what they are.
so
So do we have to say noise holiday up in the document?
yeah, I can replace that as an assignment. So
Okay.
any legal holidays becomes noise holiday.
no, well, then we got to change this to legal holiday.
No, that's what I'm saying. All the
You're
legal
gonna change it
holidays.
the other way around.
Okay,
So up here where it says or legal holidays, this will just say noise holidays.
yeah, okay.
Or Tim, since you took out Christmas Eve, you could just call it legal holiday again.
No,
That's
because that's
all it-
the whole big list.
Yeah,
No, that's federal holiday. You're defining legal
Oh,
holiday.
okay.
Oh, even
Right.
better,
Just to, that
even
helps.
better.
That helps, so I don't have to retype everything.
It
Yeah.
sounds better being
go
legal.
back down there and change the word noise back over to legal.
That's how it's written in the Sharon law. They call it legal holiday. And then just define the actual days. But they do include Christmas Eve in there, but I don't know why they still call it legal holiday since it's not. But
So does it have to say legal holidays with an S?
No, well,
Well, the way we've got it phrased this, then yes, I would put the S on it.
okay.
Okay, so we got two things here. Do we want to just tackle plainly audible real quick?
Yeah,
I'm gonna do homework on that. I'll do some, find out, I'll come up with some reasonable.
I already got one here.
Oh, okay.
I was sent, Lisa sent one over.
Oh.
And then there's another, and Andrew sent me one with more to it. So it's the same thing. Any sound that can be detected by a person using his or her unaided hearing faculties. And then there's an example if we want to keep it. As an example, if the sound source under investigation is a portable or personal vehicular sound amplification, I think this gets long. I think it could just be as an example, we reduce this. As an example, the enforcement officer need not determine the title of the song, specific words, or the artist performing the song. The detection of the rhythmic bass component of music is sufficient to constitute a plainly audible sound.
so I guess I'd ask Pete, how does that comport with what you would have
That
tried
isn't
to?
really what I would have thought it was, but,
Yeah, that's not what I thought we were talking about.
I think that's much lower standard.
That is a much lower standard.
Yes.
Hmm.
This is exactly what I thought about as my knowledge of this definition would be, right here. Any sound that can be detected by a person using his or her. I guess actually you need the example for what I was thinking. The example is the part that, you know, you can hear a song playing, but you can't determine what the specific song is based upon what you can hear. That would be considered plainly audible. Do we want to table this, or do we want to, I mean, it's 10:18.
I was thinking that you did have to I hear music and I can recognize it as
I
the
would-
Rolling Stones. Like,
Yeah, I would prefer the more strict definition.
Tim, can we go back and take a look at where we use plainly audible, and does it pertain to what they're talking about in these examples?
The liquor license or the
Mhm.
liquor.
Like you could hear the bass of a song, a mile away,
Yeah,
but you don't know what song it is. But as you get closer to the song, okay, at some point you're gonna go, oh, I know what song that is. Like there's a big difference there.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's just audible.
all right. So maybe if this is a common definition for plainly audible, maybe we want to have a different word here. Instead of plainly audible, maybe we want to be distinctly audible.
Yeah, I mean, I thought
Ooh.
actually plainly audible was more widely accepted, but I guess it's not. I did a little research just during the
Yeah.
meeting here. I couldn't find a
Because
solid one. So.
My sense was we were going along with that, which may be that we want to change plainly to distinctly audible.
Right.
And then define distinctly audible the way that it does not mean you can just tell the bass, but it means that you can actually tell what the song was.
Are we okay with this?
It
Any
should be
objection?
distinct. The property of such a song is not distinctly audible. Okay.
That's the word, right?
Yeah.
So. Oh, what's the part of the definition?
I don't think I've ever seen distinctly audible used in any of the bylaws. I've
Doesn't
seen
mean we can't.
plainly- No, it doesn't, but I'm just saying that you see this quite a bit.
So I got the plainly audible definition from the chief. And that's, that's what that's how we described it. Is, you can actually understand the words of the conversation type of thing. But that's what I was gonna do for homework, is try and find that.
I mean,
definition.
I'm okay. My stance is it's pretty late. I'd like us to be okay with the homework piece on this particular one. I think that's okay to get that right. If the commonality, which I believe Lisa's right, the commonality is plainly audible, I think it might be in our best interest to stick with that. So why don't we leave distinctly or plainly up for opportunity and see if there's a homework assignment to fill that in better.
So we have an hour and 15 minutes next Wednesday before the advisory meeting. We could probably tackle half of that in that time.
Mhm. We can do that in quiet hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't even know if we need quiet hours at this point. We haven't used it anywhere.
Okay, I didn't think so.
I'll double check.
No, it's not in there.
Yeah, so this can just go away. We don't need this anymore.
Okay.
So we got through this. We have one giant one in yellow. We left off on this one.
Right, we were going to take a vote, but Lisa had left us for a moment.
Right. Should we go ahead and do the vote?
Yes.
I'm leaving. Bye, everyone. Have a great night.
Bye.
Good night, Lisa.
Does that mean we're going to take a vote without her?
Yep.
We still have a
Apparently.
quorum.
I
We
think
have
we
a
need to,
quorum. She elected not to participate.
Yep.
So let's take the vote.
Okay, so who made the motion?
There was,
Let me go back and find it.
there was no motion.
Nope, there was no motion. We were going to make a motion.
All right, I'll make a motion to remove the definition construction.
And I'll second it.
Okay. A yes means it's removed.
Yep.
Tim,
Yes.
Lisa is absent.
Yep.
John,
yes, remove it.
Lee,
It's unnecessary. Remove it.
Cindy,
Yes, remove it.
and I'll say yes as well, remove it.
Okay.
All right, so it's removed.
Okay. So that ends going through this. This informational section is still down here. I'd like us just to agree on how we want it to show up, and I'm going to get rid of this addendum that we used before. It's now unnecessary.
Mhm.
Okay, so now that we have this informational section at the bottom, how would we like this to appear on this document? Exactly as it is, just as a section, the last section,
I think that's fine.
and it just is what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because it's correct as it's written there.
right.
Okay. So
Yeah, you
if
don't have to, line 150, you don't have to say.
So we want to remove this now.
Correct.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's
It's
redundant.
in bold above, bold and capitals above.
Oh, yeah. Mm.
Okay. So let's recap where we landed tonight, because we just got through the whole thing. We have scope, we have standards, we added homeowner work noise standards back, we fixed the new construction permit piece.
Wait. Does homeowner work noise standards need a number?
Yeah, I'll take care of formatting later.
Oh, all right. Okay,
There's
sorry.
like different fonts and all kinds of stuff that I gotta go through when we hang up.
Okay, you said
So
that.
we have homeowner work noise standards here. Added that back to line up with things. We get rid of hooting. I forget what we did in this section, some cleanup. I think I was just double checking to see if this was, if animal was written twice in a weird way. But it's not, we're okay, we fixed that. Exemptions, we cleaned up. Get what all we did. It's been a while, guys. We agreed on violations and penalties and that was written.
Wait, can you just go back to exemptions for 1 second?
Yep.
We have, okay, emergency. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, it's late.
No, that's
I'm old.
fine. The goal of this tonight, the reason we went late is to make sure we can send this off to the legal and everybody else we have to. Violations and penalties, we agreed on the verbal warning and then the reduced timeline.
You think,
Can we make all that black?
Yeah. I'll
do you
take care
think
of that.
85 we should do in teal? For the lawyer to look at?
We can, I mean, like, they're gonna look at it anyway as the whole thing. I don't think it's a specific thing that we have
Okay,
major
that's fine,
questions
that's
on.
fine. I know there was just some kind of, it wasn't solid how we were wording it, so I didn't know if we wanted, but that's fine.
All right, enforcement, we pulled back we made the police department the primary one. We added in an appeal section. Was this to be in blue? I think we had agreed this was going to be in blue. Am I correct?
Yeah,
Teal.
teal.
I think that was my motion. We added definitions, and then this is for homework. Let's see if there's anything else. And Pete, you're going to lead that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just, I think that for homework for all of us, we just need to take another look through the document with an eye toward have we defined everything that needs to be defined?
That's good.
Yep.
Tim, when you get done doing the formatting, just give me a call and I'll forward it to Kathy Cook so she can get it to her group as soon as possible.
I'll send it to the whole group. When I'm done with the formatting, I think I'm on that thread, Pete. I'll send it on that thread as well.
Okay.
So I don't know if
What, the thread with Kathy Cook?
Yeah.
Okay. And just so the folks know, it looks like I'm probably going to have to update the agenda for Wednesday's meeting. So it might be confusing, but you'll probably get a new agenda because I'll have to put in there that we're going to meet with the advisory because we didn't have that on the original.
Okay.
Right. So I'm going to make a motion just to make sure that we're sort of like complete. My motion is that that the committee adopt the version that that Tim just showed us, and that he will circulate immediately with the formatting after the meeting as our current working draft. And so to understand what that's saying is that there were a lot of places in this document that we sort of like agreed by consensus, but didn't take an actual vote on. But by taking this vote, we're adopting the document as a whole as our working draft.
Do we have a number of that draft?
V8.
Version 8. Yep.
Version 8. Okay.
Second.
So the motion is to adopt version 8 as our working draft.
Second.
Okay. Okay. Seconded by Tim.
Aye.
John, yes or no?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, folks.
So we need to do, I'll make a motion to end public comment. If there's
Yes. So I'll second that. I think we can do that one by a show of hands. We have 5 thumbs up to end public comment.
So for next Wednesday, we're going to join the noise bylaw meeting.
Correct.
And I think we're going to have to leave the noise bylaw meeting
Yep.
and join the advisory meeting.
Right. And we'll call that a recess.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, so then when we join their meeting, it's just, it's okay to do it that way in the Rota Zoom? We don't have to
Yep.
end our meeting and start another meeting?
How do you keep the current meeting going?
Yeah, I would say we're gonna have a meeting and then we're gonna meet with them. And they're gonna
Well,
have a
we have
meeting and they're gonna meet with us.
We have to have 2 posted meetings then, if we're doing it that way.
Yeah, they're gonna post, their meeting's posted and our meeting will be posted.
Yeah, but if we meet before the meeting, how is that okay?
So
Our
I think
meeting
that-
is part of our agenda is to join their meeting.
Right.
And Tim, I think the way we can handle it for anybody who shows up while we're off screen is that what you could do is you could just, leave on our room when we go on recess, use a phone or an iPad or somebody's second computer to be in as a panelist, sharing a screen which saying the Noise Bylaw Committee is currently with the advisory committee and we are on recess and we'll return to session where at the conclusion of our section, whatever words to the effect of that. Just so if somebody tunes into our meeting, they'll see that we're in recess.
Yeah, but we're not really in recess. So Andrew, do you have how this works? This doesn't seem to add up.
Yeah, no, so you wouldn't be in recess. So you just basically you want to explain in your meeting minutes. And again, Jim Haggerty is probably the best one to make sure that you have it correctly in your agenda. Is usually you would just say, we will reconvene our meeting, in the minutes and say we will then join advisory's meeting on their, virtual meeting after. And then when you join advisory, not in your agenda, but when you join, you would just call your meeting back to order, not to order, but return to order. And then you would call your meeting, postponed or held or whatever the terminology needs to be until you go back to the other room, and then you'll call your meeting back to order.
Yeah.
So you could call it recess, or I think recess is probably the right term. So it's you call your meeting to order in your current your Zoom room, then you would go to recess and tell everybody that you're going to another Zoom room. In that Zoom room, you call your meeting back to order and meet with advisory, and then go to recess, go back to your room, call it to order, and then you'll motion to adjourn at the end.
Yep.
But I just think checking with Jim is probably best to understand what the exact language is in there. I usually just put more information than you need to explain exactly what you did and how you did it and where you went. But he might have something. I mean, we do it all the time when advisory meets with selectmen, and then we jump back to our meeting and things like that.
Yeah. It was different when we met with selectmen because we didn't have a quorum, even though I didn't post a meeting, which was.
We didn't enter into a first meeting to then go to a second meeting.
Yeah, because we didn't have a quorum.
No, we didn't have 2 meetings on the same day. Like we didn't have a meeting and then join a meeting.
No, but if Tuesday with the selectmen, if we had a quorum, I'd have to call a meeting and run it as a meeting, and then I'd have to do what he just said. But we didn't have a quorum, so I didn't have to do that.
I think it's 2 different points.
It doesn't matter. Same thing. It's late.
For what you're going to do for the agenda, you just have to include that we're going to meet with the advisory committee as part of our agenda. That's all.
And I may have to put in the link. I'll have to talk to him, and I may have to supply the link so people can.
That actually would be reasonable.
Yeah, just reference the virtual meetings. So you could just say, on Southborough Town /virtual meetings to find advisory link. It helps to have all the information there if somebody's reading it. But you would just be like, we will leave our meeting and return to it after our additional meeting.
Right.
But
well, thank you very much for your assistance on a Friday.
Yeah. Thanks for sticking around, you and Sam.
TGIF.
Yes.
All right.
Well, thank you guys so much for all your hard work on this. it's yeoman's work and it's
We'll
greatly
see whether
appreciated.
any of us ever volunteer for another committee.
Last committee. All right, folks, you want to have a motion to adjourn?
I guess.
Second.
Sorry, do we want to approve the minutes or do it next time?
Oh, we had one more minute to approve, right?
Yeah,
To-
so these are the minutes.
I'm sorry, I still haven't looked at it.
Okay. I
I'm
guess we'll do it
sorry.
later.
Later.
All right,
Thank you, though. All right, so a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
sure.
Second.
Lee seconded it. We're gonna thumbs up if you want to adjourn. Lee, I can't see it. Oh, we have 5 thumbs up. Thanks, folks. Another interesting Friday night.
Adios.